Hi, my name is Maj, and I'm running for city council in the city of Portsmouth, New Hampshire this fall. I'm hoping to get your vote. I know what you're thinking. Maj, why would I vote for you? And I'm going to tell you, I have a three-part platform to make Portsmouth great again. Number one, pants are going to be completely optional in municipal buildings. That's right. Let's say you forget your birth certificate or you need to get a new copy of your birth certificate, go to City Hall and you realize, I forgot to put on pants. No problem, my friend. Just go inside, get your birth certificate, everything's okay. Number two, it will be illegal to sell Velveeta cheese anywhere within city limits. Velveeta cheese is abhorrent, it's horrible, and I don't want anybody having to purchase it or be able to purchase it in our fair city. Finally, in honor of my Welsh heritage, I'm going to make St. David's Day an official holiday within the city. Now, I know you're probably asking, does that mean everybody's going to be forced to wear leeks on their heads? No, leek wearing will be 100% optional, but strongly encouraged. All right, I hope I'll get your vote this November. Thank you so much, sir. Goodbye.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner, which turned 10 years old in 2021. Insert suitable sounds of shock and awe now. If you enjoy the show and have pursued the recommended treatment from your medical providers, why not support the show on Patreon over at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. You can also donate to the show directly at aftermoviediner.com. Rate and review the show wherever podcasts are found and rating and reviewing is possible. Even a 1-star review provides useful insights on exactly the sort of petty-minded and wretched individual who negatively reviews free entertainment they do not need to be consuming. And now, try to contain your outrage and yawns. Here is your host, Jon Cross.
Yes, that's right. I am Jon Cross, and at least 3/4 of my nostrils were put there by NASA to summon and track bees and their pollination habits. So, before we slip into the warm and comforting jacket pocket of a Mr. Kirk Howle and the movie Demonoid, just a word about the fact that, again, this episode was recorded back in January, which was sort of the last time we really recorded anything. I think maybe next week's episode will be from February. But anyway, they were all recorded back at the beginning of the year because I haven't done anything since then. And so cast your mind back, because if there is any date-sensitive chatter in this episode, you need to remember what kind of an insane place the world was back in January of 2022. It was at least 3 times more insane than it was in January 2019, but only about 5% less insane than it is right now. But that's what this is all about. To take your mind off everything, to distract you from the endless wave of distractions that kill us by 1,000 cuts every single minute of every waking moment. Also, it's an utterly ridiculous, but at the same time very serious reminder that none of it matters. None of it. This doesn't even matter. There's just you and your memory. Okay, so now here are some more voicemails, and then on with the usual nonsense. Voicemail, a voicemail, everybody leave us a voicemail. A voicemail, a voicemail, won't everybody leave? Get out! Voicemail, voicemail, please everybody leave us a voicemail. I said voicemail, a voicemail, now everybody leave. Get out! Jeff, you loiterer.
Hey, first of all, I may or may not have had a few drinks this afternoon, but that has nothing to do with it. This is Michael Allen Fitzgerald, and I just received my Patreon receipt for the month of February. And notice a notable absence of charges from the After Movie Diner. Take that as you will, and have a good day. All right. Now, for putting aside the question of my sobriety, I don't believe it has anything to do do with the fact that I forgot to mention or failed to mention the possibility of you covering Bigelow's Adventures in Time or possibly Kurt Russell's Soldier. But it was forgotten. We're not going to, talk about the reasons it was forgotten. We're not going to try to ascertain the level of my sobriety from this. But yes, both of those films are films that can be covered. That's it. Bye. I mean, just because I forgot to leave my name on the last message, it should be obvious who the last message was from because it came on the back of the previous message. Once again, not a reason to question my sobriety. And I'd like to go as far as saying it's completely understandable that you may or may not be working on the script that we haven't heard anything about for quite some time, which I dutifully, happily have chosen to promote and support in any way. And not to suggest that I forget again, this is once again, as you already know, and it's not a question of my sobriety, Michael Allen Fitzgerald.
Voicemail, a voicemail. Everybody leave us a voicemail. Voicemail, a voicemail. Won't everybody leave? Get out! So that was regular listener and supporter of the show, practically the last listener and supporter of the show that exists out there, and really the only reason I'm releasing anything at this point, Michael Allen Fitzgerald, reminding me across 3 gloriously drunken and wonderfully articulated messages that I haven't done anything, that I haven't worked on that script, that I haven't released any podcast or hardly any podcast this year. I would like to say that, I have been, I bought a house this year. We've been doing the house up. We got a puppy this year. So I've been spending a lot of time with my dog and working on my house and doing various things. And I would like to say that those were all excuses. But the truth of it is that I haven't felt it. I just haven't felt it. A lot of people I know, and Matt Farley, who is possibly the only other listener, and the wonderful author of The Moturn Method, would chastise me for this because he believes, possibly quite rightly, that don't wait for the mood to take you, just get up every day and be creative. Just every day, write something, make music, do something. And maybe that's right. Maybe you just have to work through it. But it's not that I'm feeling writer's block or that I don't have... I'm not feeling the practical aspect of it. I always used to love the editing and the performing and the writing of the sketches and the doing the voiceovers and all that. That was the bit that I got all excited about. I'd sort of over time become less and less interested in sort of reviewing movies, and I just got interested in sort of just creating a great show and doing weird little things and adding my own nonsense to it all. And I just haven't, it's that I haven't been feeling. I haven't been feeling it. I've been really enjoying my life. This year's been fantastic. I've been really enjoying my house. I've been writing and recording a lot of music. I have a couple of albums worth that will be released at some point. I'm waiting on collaborators on one of them, and the other one I just need to do some remixing and tweaking some of the songs. But in general, I just haven't been feeling much else. But, I have a few recorded episodes that I'm releasing slowly when the mood takes me. And who knows what the future is? I really honestly don't know what the future is. And it's not about, a rapturous reception, but it would certainly help if it didn't feel like I was only editing this episode for, me, Mike, and Matt Farley, potentially. So if you genuinely want the show to continue, and if you genuinely want me to record more episodes and do more things, then anyone listening to this message right now, please call 347-669-0053 and leave a voicemail. That's 347-669-0053, leave a voicemail. Or write to me at hello@aftermoviediner.com, because it may help. It may not. It may not change my mood at all, but it may help. It may give me some motivation to go back and record some other episodes. So we have this episode. We have one more recorded with Jim in a diner, which is very exciting because we haven't been back in a diner for a long time. So we do have a new diner episode recorded in a diner coming up soon. But that's it. Once those two are out, I have no more left in the tank. So if you want me to go ahead and record more episodes or get more guest hosts or anything like that, or source something or figure something out, and let me be clear, I'm talking about if the show's going to continue, then it will be mostly recorded over the internet, Skype conversations, much in the way that the show started off. I no longer live in New York. Jim and I do see each other occasionally, but we're not going out to diners or movies or any of the things that we used to do with the frequency that we used to do it. So if the show continues, I know I get a lot of emails, I get a lot of stuff where people say, oh, I really miss the in-diner shows. Like, those were my favorite. Those are my things. If I'm 110% honest with all of you, that isn't happening with anything like the frequency that it used to. So if the show's continuing, it's continuing with different guest hosts and recorded over Skype or Zoom or whatever. It's not going to be in person in a diner. So just to be clear. But anyway, if you want that, just voicemail or email would be really, really appreciative. And it's not about ego. It's just, it might help the motivation. That's all I'm saying. Or it might not. I might just be like, thanks ever so much for saying that you'd like more episodes, but there are no more episodes. I don't know what it'll make me do, because at the moment, I'm just living my life, and it feels really, really good to just be living my life. I'm watching a ton more movies again, which feels great. I haven't really watched a lot of movies or enjoyed watching a lot of movies for ages. Don't forget to follow After Movie Diner on Letterboxd if you want to see what I'm watching and kind of follow along and comment and all that groovy stuff. I'm there on Letterboxd, so maybe do that. So it feels really nice to be just watching movies again, playing music again, and playing with my dog and spending time with my wife. That just feels good right now. I'm just enjoying existence and life. So yeah, send me an email or a voicemail as to why you think the show should continue. Just anything, and we'll see. Anyway, here's the conversation I had with Kirk Howle about Demonoid back in January. No, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show, Kirk Howle. How have you been? Have you done any, in the last 2 years, have you done any podcasting and so on, or is Zoom calls for work and Zoom calls with friends and family killed it dead for you, the idea of talking to people?
No, yeah, that's been my primary way of and first I should say thank you, Jon Cross. And I think we should continue to refer to ourselves by our full names.
Yes, definitely.
Throughout the entire podcast.
So we sound like a Matt Farley, Charlie Roxburgh movie.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. What is that?
Oh, the Motown Media films.
Oh, Matt Farley.
Matt Farley.
When you said that, I thought of Chris Farley for some reason. My brain just like short-circuited.
Got
okay.
It. No,
yes, Motown Media.
Based on, so there's a Don Dola film called Fiend, and in it there is a very stilted argument that two neighbors have where they refer to each other as Mr. Longfellow, and I forget, what's the other guy's name? But they basically go, Mr. Kinder. That's it. They basically go, well, thank you very much, Mr. Kinder. And it goes, you're welcome, Mr. Longfellow. And they just do this throughout the whole scene. And it's a joy. I mean, I absolutely love it. It's fantastic. Right. It's this neighbor who's investigating his neighbor who turns out to be a possessed zombie fiend from hell who is strangling local women to maintain his source of power. He is known as the Fiend. And they just have a back and forth where they're like, Mr. Kinder, Mr. Longfellow. So Charlie and Farley, who make all the Motown Media Shock Marathon movies, have taken that to the next ridiculous level, which I absolutely love, where they utilize someone's full name in every scene as much as possible.
Awesome.
So I am, listen, if we want to then step on the shoulders of those giants and continue with that, so you are Mr. Kirk Howle, Esquire, and I'll be Mr. Jon Cross, the third, which isn't even the case. My dad's father. My dad's name is Graham, and my dad's father's name was Bernard. But I can be Jon Cross the third if you want to just tack a little extra juice on the end of the name. You just want to.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see how it feels as we go along.
Just go with whatever feels natural, Kirk Howle.
But speaking of names, I feel like this movie could have used some names being mentioned in it, but because it was only once or twice maybe they named a couple of people, but for the first like 30 minutes, I was like, who are these people?
Who are these people? Well, there isn't that many people in the movie, so that's maybe why they felt that to be the case. But yes, Kirk brings up a good point. We are talking this week all about the 1981 Alfredo Zacharias film Demonoid, Messenger of Death, which also goes by the European name and, in fact, the heavily edited name of Macabre, or Macabre, or however you want to pronounce that word, Macabre, if that's how you want to pronounce it.
Macabre.
Macabre. It's Macabre virus software is the alternate name of this movie. But no, neither title. So if we go into the movie right away, neither title, I feel, does this film justice. In fact, I feel like the whole marketing thing for this title, for this movie in general, is way off. Now, while the neon-drenched graphical poster for Demonoid is fantastic. I mean, I love it. It's a beautiful image. It's full of mad gothic horror and women gesticulating. Is that the word? And a huge demon with a sword and everything. I mean, it's just phenomenal. It's really late 70s, early 80s raw neon cartoony brilliance. That's not what that's not the movie. You know what I mean? The movie is more of a sort of horror hand attacks kind of movie.
Yeah, really lo-fi quality effects, just like sort of handmade. No pun intended, but very very cheap looking.
Well, what I like is that it definitely works. What I like is there is a poster for this movie where the alternate, which has a giant hand on it, which looks good, and the hand is kind of grabbing at Stuart Whitman, the priest, and Samantha Eggar, the woman, with the hand wrapped around it, which is a much better image. And the name of the title appears to be, and this is probably French then, Les Dojoid, meaning like digit, Le Digit du Diable, which is obviously the fingers of the devil, which I think is a great name for this movie. I think the fingers of the devil is a better name for this movie than Demonoid or Macabre. Yeah. And I think the poster is better for Les Digit or Le Doigit because it has an O in it. So Les Doigit du Diable is the French title. But yeah, I mean, whatever title, whatever name, this was a find for me. So I am a huge fan of the Blu-ray company Vinegar Syndrome. And now that I have moved to Connecticut, the home of Vinegar Syndrome, and I live 30 minutes away from Bridgeport, I go to the Archive all the time, which is the awesome video store that they have attached to the Vinegar Syndrome movie updating and remastering and scanning and whatever warehouse that they have right next door.
Oh, cool.
And their offices and everything like that. And so every so often I just pootle down there. It's a good, because I'm driving now as well, Kirk, so it's a good kind of drive. It's a nice sort of 45 minutes on the windy back roads, 30 minutes on a relatively clear freeway kind of drive down to Bridgeport. It's kind of nice. It's a good thing to do of an afternoon when you have nothing else going on. And I get to see my pals down there at the Archive. And I was down there one time, and there was a couple of new titles that I wanted to get. And then I was just perusing the older VS titles that they had in the store. And this one was the one that popped out at me. Funnily enough, I'm criticizing its marketing, but it was because of the cover. I was like, oh, it's Demonoid, and it has a big guy with a sword and women gesticulating and or genuflecting. I don't know what the word is. Anyway, they were doing it on the front cover, and it was bright neon. And I read the back, and I was like, oh, this sounds like interesting. And because it was an older title, it wasn't that expensive, and I was like, great, I'm just going to pick this up on Blu-ray. I've done that multiple times for different Blu-ray companies and for different titles. And you normally find that it's a 30% success rate. Like when you just buy blind, it's normally like a 30% success rate. I put Demonoid square into that 30%. For me, having seen all the sort of atrocious B-movies or shot-on-video stuff or whatever, some of which I love, some of which I don't. This, to me, I'm like, you set your table and you ran with it. Not the table, but you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm mixing metaphors. You picked up the table, you ran down the road with it. But Kirk, this was a first for you, right? You hadn't heard of this movie before.
I had heard the title, but I had no idea what it was about. And I think I may have seen the cover art at some point, but I'd never watched it. In fact, I just finished watching it today, about 2 hours ago. So I kind of watched it in spurts and took notes as I went.
Yeah.
But yeah, really enjoyed it. I think, the first about 5 minutes of the movie does live up to the cover, I think.
Right.
Because you've got like cult members in yellow hoods running around in some underground chamber.
The very first where they
for no reason.
where they kill the woman, they strip her naked and kill her. Right? Yeah.
That felt like it had all the best, most over the top ingredients of like an 80s horror movie.
Yes,
and it was like perfect little mini movie, I guess, to start the film off. But the boobs were completely unnecessary to show. I don't know why the cultists decided before. But
if you're in a cult, Kirk, this is how I feel. If I'm going to really submit to a cult, submit to the full lifestyle, pay for the robes, maybe pay a membership fee once a year or whatever it is, I should at least get one good slaughter a year. Like we should kill an animal or a person in some truly gothic and tremendous way, and then there should be boobs. I just feel like that should be part of the cult. If I'm indulging, if I'm really submitting to this and making this part of my lifestyle, I just feel like boobs should be involved, and I don't begrudge them for that. They've put a lot of time and energy into this nonsense, and they should be rewarded. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to make it equal. So, like, as the guys were about to chop off their hand, they should have just whipped out their penises too, and just let them just hang out there while they do their hand chopping,
or have a woman and a man like strapped or nailed to the wall, tear both their clothes off, remove both their hands, and let the hands fight for supremacy before they put the demon into the hand.
Oh wow, little hand cage match kind of.
Like a thumb of war, but with 7 hands, choosing who gets to be possessed by the sword-wielding demon who only ever wants to show up in silhouette with a lot of smoke behind him. That's all he's interested in.
Well, that demon looks kind of like the one on the cover. It does look cool.
It does.
It's probably helped by the fact that it only shows it to you for a split second every time. But that was one of the better visual effects of the movie.
Well, it does make me think of John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness, where you occasionally get that video footage of someone coming out of the church with the white smoke behind him and sort of silhouetted and so on, which you assume is the devil, but you never really kind of get to see the whole thing.
Yeah. They never really tell you if this is the devil or just a devil.
Just a demon.
Or a demon. Or a demonoid, which I guess you should avoid because it ruins your demon pizzas. Yes.
Or what's it? Or demonoid makes it sound like, because a humanoid is a robot that is very human, right? Like a very lifelike robot.
Right, something that is human-like,
Humanoid.
So this is like a demon.
Demonoid should be what? It's demon adjacent.
Yeah.
It's
maybe it's not from hell. Maybe it's from like
purgatory.
Yeah. It just works at a 7-Eleven, but it's
just occasionally fills the Slurpee machine full of cum or something, and it's just like. It's like, well, I do the odd demonic thing. We don't go full blown into like sacrificing of virgins, but occasionally I do something that just really pisses people off or grosses them out, and that was enough to kind of get me the Demonoid title. And occasionally I can dwell with some of the lower beings, but we don't do that much. We don't have that much in common. They're very busy, kind of, sacrificing firstborns and possessing dogs and things like that. I'm much more of a practical kind of demon, a casual demon on the weekends.
Just doing like prank TV show kind of stuff, like just
I'm more of your kind of jackass demon.
Yeah. One thing I loved looking at IMDb, the description for this is spouses looking for silver in Mexico find a 300-year-old severed hand driven by a demon. And I like that they made it sound like the hand is this demon's little car that it drives around.
Yeah, little micro machine that it's just... occasionally when I'm feeling a bit demonic, I get in my possessed hand, I drive it around a little bit, see what's going on. Can't begrudge a Demonoid for that, can you?
Yeah. I mean, he's just driving around trying to do his errands. He's got to go pick up his demon laundry and, keeps running into people's faces. The faces keep stopping too soon in front of his demon car, and he's got to crush them to get away.
All these faces on the 405 while I'm trying to get to the laundromat. I don't know what's going on. I mean, so essentially there's a sort of plucky British architects down in Mexico with their pith helmets and so on, and they're like, what's going on over there with that mine shaft? And they're all like, whoa, the locals never go in there, it's demonic. Oh, that sounds like fun. Let's go down into the mine. The mine goes on for miles. We could really be trapped down here. Great, let's keep going further. They go as far as they possibly can. They break through into another level. The mine beneath the mine.
The scene where he falls through the I guess, quicksand, kind of like more just like quick dirt, I guess.
Yeah, it's
hilarious how he's trying to make it look like he's struggling, but it's very obvious he's just trying carefully to put his legs through the hole in the floor under the dirt so he can fall through. And he keeps yelling the whole time to his wife. He keeps yelling, "Get aboard! Aboard! Get aboard!"
I'm so bored. I'm bored with drowning in quick dirt. Oh, look, a temple. How lovely, a temple. I've fallen through. Don't worry, lady, about the board. I've found a temple. Come down, I've found a temple. They find a temple under the earth. Because if we've learned nothing from movies over the years, everything happens under the main earth on the second earth. Like it's never in the main. It's never in the main. It's like the Meg, the Jason Statham movie about the giant shark. It's the giant shark doesn't live in the ocean. It lives in the ocean underneath the earth pocket, underneath the air pocket rather, in the second ocean. You know the second ocean, Kirk? The ocean that lives underneath the main ocean, but there's like an air pocket. What is that? Oh, it doesn't matter. It just separates the oceans. Oh, well, that's fine then. And that's what this is like. There's a dirt pocket that separates the two different levels of earth. And they fall through into the temple level. It's kind of like Sonic the Hedgehog, I guess. Yeah. Was Temple Zone 2? I think Temple Zone was level 2, I think.
Oh, I never actually played Sonic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think I was too... I didn't have quick enough reaction time to play it.
Okay. Fair enough.
What was I going to say about...
We should have some quiet violin music there. I didn't have quick enough reaction time to play Sonic.
I missed out on... I don't know. And it's weirdly... Sonic has caught grabbed the imaginations of like people far younger than me, so they're always talking about Sonic, and I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, I don't. Maybe I'm old, or maybe I just don't get Sonic.
It was a Sega Master System thing growing up when I was like 8 or 9, and my best friend got a Sega Master System, which over here was called the Sega Genesis. And
we had the Sega Master System, I guess, before that, and then it became the Genesis. I don't know.
Okay.
Their naming conventions are weird, but I do remember the Sega stuff. Yeah. I just never played it. We were more of like a Nintendo group of people.
I didn't get into Nintendo till I was in university. We had the N64 and we played GoldenEye and that Fox one where the fox flew through the air for no. It was like Mario, but it was a fox and he was in the air. It was like Mario Kart rather, but it was a fox and it was
Star Fox, I think that one.
Star Fox, yes.
And you could shoot your friends down. That was the best part. And they would be like, "What are you doing?" And you just kill all your teammates.
That's when someone who's done a lot of cocaine sits up from the boardroom table and just goes, "Star Fox," and people are like, "What's that, Jeff?" "Oh, well, it's this idea I have." It just sounds like two words you've slammed together. No, I know, but go with me on this. Anyway, sorry. Keep digressing. Anyway, back to Demonoid. They're in the temple, Kirk. It's Temple Zone. What happens then?
Well, they're looking around, and I think the lady, we found out her name is Jackie later, but and she's played by Samantha Eggar, who it took me a while to realize she's in The Brood as the sort of mother figure.
She is in The Brood. She was also in, and I got to look it up for a second, so give me a second. I'll cut out me looking it up because it sounds terrible. But she was also in another movie that I was watching recently. In fact, Samantha Eggar did some sort of great sort of B movies and horror movies at this point in time. She's in Curtains, one of my favorite slasher films, shortly after this. The Exterminator is the other one that I was watching the other day for Ginty Fest 2022, which I did over on Blood, Baths, and Boomsticks. Blood, Boobs, and Beasts is a different thing. Blood, Baths, and Boomsticks podcast. I did a Ginty Fest, and I watched lots of Robert Ginty films. Samantha Eggar is in The Exterminator. Wow. And it's funny, because you could either be Meryl Streep, and do some great critically acclaimed movies, or you could do The Brood, The Exterminator, Demonoid, and Curtains. I personally would rather have that career. That's the career I wish I had, was Samantha Eggar's career, where she gets to do I'm not going to say four of the greatest exploitation films, but certainly top-level B-movie exploitation horror films available.
Yeah, those movies all had amazing cover artwork, too. Even though I don't think I've seen all of them. I never saw The Exterminator, but the cover always drew me to it. And I'm sure it doesn't live up to what the cover is.
Well, it's totally different than what the cover is, rather. The funny thing about The Exterminator is Exterminator 2 is the one where he has the flamethrower. Exterminator 1, he does lots of other things, like he puts a mobster into a meat grinder, which is a particularly exciting scene. But yeah, the flamethrower doesn't really enter into it in the first one as much as it does in the second one. The second one basically looked at the poster of the first one and went, well, we better just give him that then. And that's what the second one does. But listen, if you can be Christopher George's love interest in a exploitation movie shot in New York in the 80s, directed by James Glickenhaus, then go right ahead. Samantha Eggar, I doth my cap to you, madame.
Yeah, I'm sure she was having more fun than Meryl Streep.
Oh, 100%. Meryl Streep was being slapped by Dustin Hoffman and made to feel small and shitty by film producers, whereas Samantha Eggar gets to hang out with Christopher George's side parting and make out with who I like to refer to as the budget William Shatner. Anyway.
Awesome. We were talking about how they find the hand. Oh, right. Yes. So basically, she just notices this little, it's almost like a little display case that's covered in dust and cobwebs. She's like, look at this. And he just reaches his hand in and she's like, no, don't touch it. And he's like, why not? And he just reaches in and grabs it through this disgusting looking cobweb. This guy just like, his whole method of going through life is just like being grumpy and just saying, why should I do this?
I'm going to do it. Let me do it.
They're walking through the mine to get there, and every wall is crumbling as they walk past it. Like, this is the most shoddily put together mine. I think maybe that's the reason his workers didn't want to go down. Yeah. They didn't want to admit, they didn't want to get fired. So they were like, it's not that you poorly constructed this mine and made it unsafe for workers. There's a cursed demon hand down there.
And they were right on both counts, though. That's what's interesting. They were right on both counts. Those Mexican day laborers know a lot about demon possession and badly constructed mines, and more power to them. We should be looking to them for all our infrastructure advice at this point, especially with bridges collapsing in Pittsburgh and all that kind of very timely infrastructure stuff that's going on. Anyway, they get out of there. They go home to their wonderfully 70s furniture adorned apartment. And everything's fine until that night, right? When they go to bed, and then
all right. Well, they smooch before going to bed, and the camera pans over to the coffee table. Yeah. And this is where I learned their names, because there were two enormous human-sized sugar skulls. Yes. And one of them said Jackie on it, and the other one said whatever the guy's name was. I don't think I wrote that down, but I started cracking up when I just saw this skull that says Jackie. It seemed I don't know, weirdly out of place.
The guy's name is,
I think she yelled it once or twice.
Mark?
Oh, yeah, that's right, Mark.
Is it Mark? Yes, Mark Baines and Jennifer Baines.
Mark of the Devil.
Yes. And that was played by Roy Cameron Jensen. And my favorite thing is Dr. Julian Rivkin in this movie is played by Narcisco Busquets.
This is the most amazing name. Yeah.
Yes. Because it sounds like Narcissism Buckets. Right. So it sounds like buckets of Narcissism, this guy.
Which is the perfect name for an actor, really.
It is, yes. Or a podcaster. Or me. Anyway. So they're home smooching in front of their sugar skulls.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, right. So then they go to sleep, and I guess in separate beds. He stays up just drinking.
He does.
Into a blackout state. Yeah. And he sort of shakes himself awake. She's long since gone to bed. He hobbles over to where the the little hand coffin is.
Yes.
Well, he opens it and there's just powder in it, right?
Yeah.
I thought he was about to just snort it right up his nose because it looked like a big case full of cocaine.
Yes.
But instead he walks away, and then the hand does this amazing sort of what do they call it when you fade in and out? Like the Wolfman transformation effects from the 1950s.
Yeah, the same thing they did with the Dracula effect in Dracula Prince of Darkness with Christopher Lee, where Dracula is just dust having been killed by Peter Cushing at the end of the first movie. They drip some blood onto it, and then they just fade through into Christopher Lee. Like they just fade through. Like there's dust, a skeleton, and then Christopher Lee, and they just do some fades, transitions between the thing, and then they go, see, ping, hand, demon hand. Yeah.
But I thought it was good because they had this eerie music going, and it was kind of slow. They gradually built it up into a hand shape. It looked like somebody had to go in there and actually sculpt this little like dust into a shape of a hand, and it worked well. Then the hand comes alive, and it's literally just a rubber glove.
Yeah.
It's painted white. But then what? It goes in and starts feeling up her leg while she's asleep for some reason.
Well, because all demonic hands have to get their little perv quota in before they possess the next person.
That is true. This hand does like to party, which we'll find out later in the movie. And what? He wakes her up or something, and I forget. They both end up in the room. He tries to grab the hand, and it somehow, this happens repeatedly throughout the movie, hand disappears and is now just his hand.
Well, doesn't it grab his face?
Oh, does it grab his face? I know it grabs almost everyone's face.
I think it grabs his face.
Yeah.
And I think the assumption is meant to be it then transubstantiates into sand again. It's really, really the sand is the demon thing. Because the hand is really the mode of transportation for the sand. It gets you from the box to the face.
Yeah.
Then you inhale the possession dust. That all then crumbles away. Then your hand is possessed. And the only way you can stop the possession is removing your hand.
But then you die instantly.
The moment you remove your hand, because there's no cauterizing, there's no fake hands, there's
no way to stop blood in this world, John.
No, there is. But I did like the idea that was, like, what I loved about this movie was, that was the hand's MO. The hand's MO was grab the face, possess the person chops hand off, hand grabs face, possesses the person, person chops hand off. There's just a slew of handless bodies left throughout this movie. But every single time it was done in an entertaining way. And I think you have to... If you come to this movie having only watched, predominantly popular horror, it probably won't have the same effect. But if you've come to this movie having watched a bunch of movies that think they're this movie, like think they're doing what this movie is doing, in other words, keeping the exploitation going, keeping the blood flowing, keeping the fun happening, but really it's just like 40 minutes of dirge with the occasional scene where I'm just like, get on with it. Like, I'm always looking for the next like burst of exploitation madness. And most of these low budget movies just can't manage that on a repeated scale. They don't do that every 8 minutes. There's something weird. They do sort of every 40 minutes. You might get like the glimpse of a breast or the glimpse of some blood on a wall or the glimpse of whatever, because that's all they can do. And there's a certain charm to that, and there's a certain interest to that. But if you've watched, the best way to watch this movie would be to watch 10 of those movies, become really annoyed with those movies, and just go, couldn't you have at least done something entertaining? Then watch this movie, and then you're like, finally, someone with the same budget as those other movies, but who did something entertaining. That's kind of what I promote this movie as. That's Definitely. Why I say it's sort of if it's a blind buy for you, then it's one of the 30% successful out of the 70%. Like, another one that I bought recently was Rush Week, because I'm a big fan of slasher films, and I'm a big fan of especially sort of the early to mid 80s slasher films. Although I think Rush Week is a later one. I think Rush Week came out in the second half of the 80s. Either way, though, I'm thinking like it's a slasher film at a college. With again another cult with like a bunch of hooded people and like masks and things like that. I'm like, you can make that entertaining. Nope. 90 minutes of no entertainment whatsoever. There was barely any nudity, barely any kills. When there was kills, they were fairly bloodless and unimaginative. And I'm just like, you failed. You failed on the basic principle of what a slasher should be. A slasher, at its very core, should be a series of entertaining kills threaded together with completely bizarre characters and non sequiturs and 40-year-olds playing high school children. That's what a slasher should be. If you can't manage that, don't make one.
The worst slashers for me are the ones where they either just have just a standard like one stab and they're dead, or they just don't even show the killings. They just show the killer walk up and then it's cut to something else and you find out later that person's dead, and it's like, what? Why am I watching this slasher movie if there's no slashing? Now,
Matt Farley, bringing him up again, he prefers the other way. He prefers all the drama. Like, you know, when you have like, I'm trying to think of one, but like House and Sorority Row or Graduation Day, or one of those, where the majority of the movie is sort of more of the drama between all the characters, like who's dating who or who hates who or who's stalking who or whatever. All that stuff's going on, and maybe there's family trouble back home or whatever. And then occasionally someone gets killed.
Okay.
He loves all the like stilted dialogue and the drama and the hanging around in rooms, you know, talking about their feelings or their families. And so he loves that. And that's fine. That's absolutely great. And I love some of that. I understand why he appreciates it. But for me, every 8 minutes, do something, or every 10 minutes, do something a little gory, a little weird, or a little like, who decided that was a thing? Like, something like that.
This movie has plenty of that, where I'm just like, what was the writing choice? Or did they just figure this out on set and somebody had an idea and they're like, do that weird thing you just said.
Like if you go to a doctor to have your possessed hand removed, make sure that doctor has a slutty nurse for no good reason. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that was part of that may have been that they had gone to a plastic surgery building,
right?
It's like on the outside.
But being a plastic surgeon doesn't mean, well, we're only going to hire nurses on which I can perform ridiculous plastic surgery on them so that they end up looking like large-breasted, large-lipped Barbie dolls in a novelty Halloween costume of a slutty nurse.
Well, you need some way of showing your
you know what I'm saying, though? Like plastic surgery,
get.
People can hire nurses who haven't had plastic surgery.
Yeah. But I mean, you cut costs by doing that, because then you're like, we don't have to show you any pictures. Just look at this lady here.
Yes, clearly a plastic surgeon's office. Yes.
But it was a weird choice for them to go there. I mean, I know we'll get to this point in the plot eventually, but to cut off his hand, he went to plastic surgeons because they're so well known for hand removal, I guess.
Yeah. He also went, I can't give you anesthetic for this. And you're like, why not? Why not? You've got to saw through my hand. He's like, we couldn't possibly give you anesthetic. Oh, okay then. Just saw it off then, I guess. Well, if we gave it anesthetic, that would just encourage the demon, I guess. That would just, the demon would get all high and stoned, and he'd be lying in the hand being like, oh man, this is great. I can't feel a thing. Hit me one more time, Olga, my demonic slave mistress, or whatever. I don't know.
Right. And he'd be asking you weird questions when he woke up that he won't remember later.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe doing, I don't know, ribald commentary on like a demonic soap opera that he's watching. I don't know.
Yeah. But before we get to that part of the movie,
sorry,
there is even before that, I've got to comment on this one character I just remembered. The guy who is driving her around in the beginning. So she was supposed to get picked up from her husband at the airport.
Yes.
And there's this man, Pepe, who shows up, who's one of the Mexican miner workers, I guess.
Yes.
And he
says Jose Chavez.
Oh, is he a well-known actor? Oh,
that's just his name. Okay. He doesn't have a photograph on IMDb, so I presume he's probably not that well-known.
Yeah. Well, he has this couple of great lines of dialogue with her where he's like, your husband couldn't leave the mine. Mines are very jealous, like most females. And she's like, is a mine a female, Pepe? And he's like, yes, no matter how hard you try, a mine won't surrender if you're not lucky. And it's just weirdest, like...
Is he making the large hole in the ground vagina comparison?
Yeah.
Is it a conundrum between the female sex?
No matter how hard you try to... Yeah, because when you go into that...
when you send a bunch of Mexicans into a vagina... The vagina may reject
to retrieve the devil
it.
hand.
It may reject the minus. Unless you're lucky. In which case the vagina might just be like, sure, Mexicans, come on in. Or any minors. It doesn't have to be Mexican. It could be Pennsylvanian minors. It could be any minors. It's not related to their ethnicity. It just happens in this movie. They are in what's the name of the town? Guanajuato? And when I saw that on the screen, I was like, what? Guanajuero? Guanajuato?
It's a real town in Mexico.
It is a real town in Mexico, and I'm sure they appreciate us doing bad jokes about it. The one Mexican listener we have is like, I live in Guanajuato. Why don't you take the piss out of me, Kirk Howle? You suck. And he's walked out into his backyard and wept a single tear.
He didn't take the headphones off that he was listening. He just unplugged from his whatever device he was listening to as he walked. Dragging behind him.
Or the headphones pulled off his head and just left flapping on the floor as he kind of shuffled sadly out into his yard. Where he weeps a single tear. I thought Kirk Howle was nicer than this. I thought he liked me. And then he just never listens to us again. So thanks, Kirk. You've lost us.
Oh, man.
Our only Mexican listener. I don't even know if we have a Mexican listener. But if we do, hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I will say Guanajuato looks like a beautiful town, at least when they filmed this.
Great minds.
Yeah, the best devil-possessed minds in the...
Great minds think alike. Anyways. There's no pun there. I just wanted to say it.
Well, that pun brings me to another exchange they had where Pepe then drives her to the mine, and he's like, well, here you are at your mine.
Yes.
And I wanted them to go into this like, who's on first style routine where she would be like, so it's my mine?
Yeah.
Yes, you're mine. I'm not yours. No, not you. The mine. Who's mine? You're mine. No, I'm not. Not what? You're mine. I am young, not yours. And it just goes on.
It just goes on back and forth forever until she just kills him.
Yeah, the rest of the movies.
She just stabs him with an axe. I'm going in. Mine is money. I can't hang around here anymore. Sorry. It's a Spinal Tap joke. Anyway, never mind. About mimes. Mimes. He says mime is money, and I just made it mine is money. Never mind. Not good. Not good. I don't know why I did that, but carry on.
Sorry. I've been the whole time I've been saying the word mine, having to keep myself from going into the minor voice from Shock Treatment days, which by now everyone has probably forgotten what that is. But just in case my fellow Shock Treatment guys listen to this, I'll say the word mine so that they don't come at me for not doing the reference.
Well, I happen to know that hopefully Mark McDonald was the guest on the show that just went up today, the Jumping Jack Flash show. And Doug Fry has already reached out and has a weird-ass movie he wants to do, which has a wrestler in it.
A wrestling-ass movie.
Yes.
A weird demonic hand movie.
A weird demon-ass movie. It just keeps jumping on people's faces and possessing them. Just the demon dust that comes out of the asshole into the mouth. It could
they say an ass is like a mine. Can't get in there unless you're lucky.
Right? That would be much more refreshing, wouldn't it? If it was like a gay miner and he used butthole references rather than vagina references. Because you'd be like, that's better than everything being Oedipal. I mean, enough with fucking Oedipus and Freud, everybody. Can we just let's just get past that. Let's grow beyond that. Yes. And maybe
past
move
the vagina
over to
the butthole.
Let's move over to the butthole as a more inclusive orifice, because everyone has one.
Exactly.
And a more humorous orifice.
Because poop comes out of it.
Because poop and farts come out of it. So I think buttholes are a much better... go ass rather than going dick or vagina. That's all I'm saying. I think it's a way to move away from defining people by their genitals. Everyone has an asshole, and
everyone is an asshole, John.
And that's true as well. Everyone has just a little bit of asshole in them and on them, and so
and deep in their hearts as well. Especially the listener, you listening to this right now.
Right. What do we say? We say the bottom of my heart. Huh? The heart has a bottom. The heart has an ass.
Well, if you look at the way people draw hearts, if you just turn that upside down,
It's an upside down butt.
yeah.
Everything comes back to butt stuff, my friend. That's seriously all of mankind and humankind, butt stuff. So, Demonoid Ass, the sequel, is coming soon.
Demonoids.
Oh, nice, good. And Stuart Whitman has to apply the hemorrhoid cream of the gods to the demonoids as he runs around. Let me get my holy hemorrhoid cream.
It's like in the shape of a cross for some reason,
Yes.
like the tube. It's got these extra parts coming out of it. You got to squeeze those to shoot the cream at it.
Yeah, I love that. Let me get my special crucifix preparation H, and it's just Stuart Whitman like an old Benny Hill sketch running around after a giant possessed ass.
This is already a more cohesive idea than Demonoid.
Right. And why is a mine like an ass? Well, let me explain. I mean, mines are full of gas, right? Don't they have? Aren't there gas in mines and stuff? That's why they carry the canaries in.
Yeah, you keep a canary in your butt.
Richard Gere likes to shove canaries up his butt, or small animals in general. I mean, it might as well be a canary, right?
I call all small animals canaries.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Sorry, back to Demonoid. The husband becomes possessed.
Right, and he.
Yeah. What happens next?
Right. So then he goes back to his mine and insists that
he went to
there,
Vegas next, or is that after the mine?
After the mine, yeah. Because
Okay.
Just to jump back real quickly, after he and his wife went down there before he was possessed, they come back up with this devil hand in a box, and he says to all his workers, "Look, it's real. This thing you were afraid of that you wouldn't go into the mine for. Now get back in that mine."
Yeah.
And surprisingly, none of them do.
No.
So now that he's possessed, the next day he goes back, forces them all to go into the mine somehow. They don't really explain how he forced them, but maybe he went boo, and they all walked down into the mine. But then he's got this dynamite.
He paid them money, Kirk, which is more than he had ever done before. Normally he was just asking them on a favor, like a big IOU. This time around he was like, "Oh, go on, you can have $50 or whatever."
Forced them.
Yeah.
That money. And he just blows them all up with dynamite.
Right, that's it. Yeah.
And immediately jumps in the car, drives off, and his wife, apparently from that moment on, doesn't see him again until months later or however much time passes, during which he goes to Las Vegas and just parties it up. Like, this demon loves to party, gamble, drink, mix it up with hookers and whatever big-breasted women who show up at the gambling table.
Someone tries to attack him for is it like cheating or cheating on gambling or something, and instead he ends up crushing his head and.
Yeah, it was like a scam because this woman comes up to the table next to him and is blowing on the dice for him to give him good luck. And I couldn't figure out how the scam worked because he won all this money, so she takes him to her car afterwards to go to. Well, I
assumed that the demon was using his special powers to always make the dice come up the right number, whatever you need. And so because he was constantly getting lucky with the dice, they assumed it was a scam, but it wasn't a scam. It was demon magic, which technically, Kirk, if you're possessed by a demon and therefore it's part of you, is that considered, I don't know, for example, if you had X-ray eyes, could they really penalize you if you naturally had X-ray eyes? I mean, you can't help having X-ray eyes. And if you naturally have a demon inside you who's willing to cheat at roulette or whatever craps or whatever they were playing, isn't that just allowed? Or not? Is that still considered?
I don't know. They have weird rules at Vegas, right? Like you can't take notes on what
you can't take notes. You can't count cards.
Can't memorize. Yeah. So, but how do they know you're not counting? I guess they just assume if you win often enough, you've counted cards.
Right.
They kick you out.
Yes.
So you're not allowed to win at Vegas, basically. And this guy won a lot.
You're not allowed to win repeatedly. You have to. So you can win big, you can bet big. And therefore win big because you happen to bet on the right thing. But every few hands lose, so it doesn't make it look like you're doing...
Yeah.
Because if you won 50 rounds of cards in a row, there's something suspicious just against the law of averages.
Exactly. But this couple who dupes him into getting kidnapped by them, I don't get if they were just like, this is weird. This guy must be something. So they wanted him to teach them how to do his demon magic that they didn't realize was magic, I guess.
No, I thought they were trying to enforce. I thought they were trying to beat him up and steal his money back for the casino. I thought they were like enforcers for the casino. Maybe not.
Oh, that's what I thought was going to happen at first. But they take him to some shack somewhere.
They do, yeah.
Tie him up and tell him they're going to cut his hands off unless he tells them how to win.
Well, unless he tells them how he's been winning, meaning like how have you been doing this?
Okay, so maybe they were with the casino.
I don't know. It could be interpreted either way. I think the reason why it was a little wooden shack out in the desert was probably due to budgetary constraints.
Yeah.
Because I think they got a few shots of the actor at a casino table, probably like saying to a casino, low-rent casino in downtown Vegas, or anywhere. I mean, you don't even happen to know that it's in Vegas. It could have been filmed in a casino anywhere.
But they got an outdoor shot of the sands, I think,
right.
Which is Vegas.
But I think, that was just a way of being like, okay, and then they try and rough him up, which we've seen in kind of gangster films and stuff. And then, but he is enthralled with the power of the demon, and he crushes. Does he crush both their heads or just one of their heads?
No, he just like bitch slaps the guy, and then he grabs the woman's face, and it sounds, the sound effect they use sounds like someone was off camera just popping bubble wrap.
Now, did you see a version of this that was called Demonoid, or did you see Macabre? Because in Demonoid, the uncut version, you see like her face and head completely crush and like blood come out.
Really? I didn't see that one.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Maybe I saw Macabre then.
You may have seen the edited version. I should have said that. I should have told you to. But how did you find this?
Just on YouTube. I looked up Demonoid. Let me see if that's the title that came up or not. But while I'm doing that, we can keep talking. So in the version I watched, it was basically they just showed the hand on her face. There was all these cracking sounds.
Yeah.
And then her face was totally normal with like a little bit of blood smeared on it.
Oh, okay. But I thought he crushed one of the heads. He did do a lot of head crushing in the movie, so maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's weird. The title was Demonoid, but maybe it's just was an edited version.
Nope.
Strange.
Oh, all good.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But I know what you mean. Like, so you see the head kind of, or the face be scrunched up, like essentially, but then her face is fine in the wide shot. Yeah, it's a little odd. It's a little odd. But maybe you saw the right version.
I do remember seeing there was something with her skin happening, like it was like peeling under the hand or something.
Yes. Yeah.
But then
it's
her
meant
face
to be
was
that he
normal.
crushed her head, but then it's yeah. I know. It is what it is.
They just couldn't get a good head.
I mean,
dummy to crush.
Demons are never that invested in what they're doing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be demons. You know, if they were like real go-getters and very positive, they'd be angels. But because they're demons, they're just like, I half crushed her face. So you didn't go for the full head? Nah. Who has time? I think I got the message with a face squidge. And then
more gambling to do.
Yeah, more gambling to do, more women to fornicate with, more whatever. Minds to blow up. That's the other thing, is if you need to possess people, like if that's your need to possess people, why kill a bunch of people?
I don't know. And the weird thing is this hand was much more effective doing killing when it was just a hand at
just
the
a
end of the
hand
movie.
than it was when it was attached to a person.
Yeah, because every time it's in a person, it just wants to get cut off from them.
Yes. There's a lot of hand cutting in this movie, which is fine.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what it's about.
What you want to see, yeah.
So, yeah, that's right. So he escapes from Vegas, but when does he... Because he gets killed, right?
Yeah, there's a fire for some reason. Is he in a car accident?
He's in a car accident, yeah. Is that when the car chase happens, when they're driving down by the railway and all that? That's a great... there's like a great car chase in the middle of this movie.
That's lit. Yeah, that's toward the end, I think. Well,
okay.
The last third of the film.
Okay.
I'm trying to look up and remember why he crashed his car at that point.
I haven't seen this in like a couple of weeks. So some of it stuck with me, some of it clearly did not. But I know that there was he ends up burnt in a police car, doesn't he? And then he possesses... he crawls out of the grave. They bury him. He crawls out of the grave. That's it. He gets burnt up in a car wreck. They bury him. He crawls out of the grave. He kills a policeman, right? Who's looking after the graveyard?
Yeah, well, there's a great bit of dialogue because because the priest, well, the wife goes to this priest where she found out her husband is buried, who she hasn't seen because he's been in Vegas for who knows how long.
Right.
And then she asked the priest to get the cops to find out if it was really her husband. So they hire a police officer, and there's this great dialogue between them where the priest is like, so the priest says, what kind of clues will you be looking for? And then the cop says, in the most depressed tone ever, he's like, I don't know. These kind of creeps really get me down. And it's like, I'm sorry you're so sad about having to find out if this man was murdered or not. But, it's kind of your job.
But that's how Stuart Whitman, as the priest, gets embroiled in this madness.
Yes.
Because he doesn't believe it at first. She believes it 100%. She is just on board with the possession.
Very few clues. She sees her husband grab a hand and then go crazy and run out of the room, and then the hand is dust, and she's like, it's got to be demon hand possessed him and turned to dust.
It's got to be. It's that age-old story of, and listen, Kirk, when you make your vows as a husband or a wife, it's very important to see those through, and belief is a big part of those vows. You know what I mean? So if your spouse is acting a little weird one day, demon possession. It's possessed by a demon hand. Makes perfect sense, and you move on. You don't question it. Don't ever question belief, Kirk. Don't ever question it.
Because you find out later that you're right. Just like
and
this one was.
Saved a whole bunch of people.
Except everyone she comes into contact with dies.
Yeah, everyone. Absolutely everyone.
Oops, sorry. I wasn't ready. I was busy pickling some fish. I like pickling things. Fish, vegetables, running shoes. Anyway. Apologies. We sadly have to pause for some ads. Maybe if more of you supported us on Patreon. But there it is. The After Movie Diner doesn't endorse any of these advertisers. We don't even know what you're going to hear. It's forced technical AI wizardry. And don't fool yourself. None of us are in control. The robots are coming, and they want to sell us insurance.
What I love about this is apparently the cause for this movie, the idea behind this movie, came from a conversation that Alfredo Zacharias had with a psychiatrist friend on split personalities. The joke about this movie is no one is possessed long enough to have split personalities. The only one that you really get the sense from is probably the priest when he gets possessed.
Yeah,
because he's a priest. So everyone but me, because I'm a heathen, assumes that priests are good people. I know they're not. I know they're just humans like everyone else, but everyone assumes he's a good, holy person, so that when his personality becomes possessed by the devil, he lashes out in more violent ways. But that's about it, though, right? There's not really much.
Even that scene, they don't really explain his motivations. He just flips suddenly. But yeah, even when the cop goes to get his hand removed at the plastic surgery center, he threatens them to remove the hand or he'll kill them, but it's never clear if he's in control of his body and just the hand is possessed, or if the hand is possessing him and making him go get it removed. Yeah,
I don't know either. But I didn't question it too often. I just enjoyed it. And what I didn't realize was that the nurse is also the same woman who played the topless woman at the beginning, who gets her top ripped off. Same actress.
Oh, okay.
So she gets killed twice in this movie, playing two different characters.
So they had an ad, like a call go out for actors, and it was like just in like 40-point font in the newspaper. Yeah. Big boobs. Yes. Do you have them? You can have 2 roles in this movie.
2 boobs, 2 roles. That's how we roll on the set of Demonoid. 2 boobs, 2 roles. Hired. Erica Carlson. You are hired.
But good for her.
Would you mind being topless in the first scene and a slutty nurse later in the scene? If I was her, I'd be like, now, Alfredo, come on now. Can we put just a little subtlety in? Nope. I want to see you not only naked, but in a slutty nurse uniform. Oh, Alfredo, you joker. But
she got paid for both roles.
And for both boobs.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Per boob. What is this? The movie is part of the notorious German Schleifers series. Thus, it was aired April 2021 on German TV station Tele 5. Schleifers is a German abbreviation which means the worst films ever. In that series, two hosts present the whole flick and make fun of it throughout the movie. Can you imagine what is essentially, it sounds like a German version of MST3K? Like, and now there are boobies. Yeah, that's ridiculous. This is your first film ever. Let us put on a Werner Herzog movie and be much more serious and sensible and look at the disastrous ennui of human existence. Rather than this movie with the 7 hands and the boobs. Yeah, it's funny. Sorry.
And one of them is just a German gumball machine for some reason.
Yeah, right.
It's just like regular gumball machines, but more efficient somehow.
I love that the Germans, who have made truly some of the most tedious movies on the planet, and also some of the most bizarre pornography on the planet, consider this movie to be one of the worst films of all time. I'm like, come on now.
Well,
this even puts our Scheiße porn to shame. Anyway, so...
That's why it's one of the worst. It contains no Scheiße moments.
Yeah, right. Now, if this was possessed butthole, then you would have something.
Yeah. That's the market for the sequel.
It is.
German market. It's going to be big there.
It is.
Get a soundtrack from David Hasselhoff and you'll be all set.
Yeah, hooked on a feeling for the 14th time. This is the Hasselhoff. I love it. Yeah, the possessed butthole does the Scheiße on the face. I'm in heaven now. We will put this on a TV series of the best movies ever made. That's true though. It's on IMDb trivia, so I assume that's factual.
Well, I think it's awesome that every country has their own version of people making fun of movies.
So do I. Yeah. I don't mean to make fun of the master race. I mean the Germans. But you are a ludicrous people. And while I love you dearly, you are a ludicrous people. Some of the English are a ludicrous people. Make fun of us all you like. Just make fun of us. But Germans, I'm sorry. You started 2 world wars. You're kind of given up the right to be outraged. I cannot believe it. I was listening, the one German listener we have of the After Movie Diner. I cannot believe it. I was listening to the After Movie Diner, and not only did Kirk upset the Mexican listener, but now me, the one German listener, I too am upset with this comical appropriation of my accent.
In true American fashion, we're trying to now beat all those other countries for being the worst country.
Yes.
So pretty soon we'll eclipse them all and just...
And my one German listener shuffled out of the kitchen into his backyard, wept a solitary tear. What will I do with my life now? I've wasted it listening to the After Movie Diner. And then he does this atrocious accent. And, I'm all upset now and verklempt. I'm going to go down the road and eat a bratwurst. It's not a dick.
That's the name of the restaurant he goes to. It's not a dick.
Bratwurst. It's not a penis.
Parentheses, but sometimes it is. They have a lot of accidents at the sausage factory. A lot of eunuchs.
Yes.
There.
Just 1 in every 100. Maybe it's a dong. Accept it.
That almost became a Christopher Walken impression there. Maybe
it's a dong. It's a Johnson. Who knows? Sausage. Penis. Anyway, sorry, Kirk. Where were we?
Let's see. The casino, the guy that crushing the woman's face, the nurse.
The policeman, the depressed policeman. We get to the... We get to the plastic surgeon. Cuts his hand off.
Oh, but before that, there's a hilarious moment where, the burned corpse that was buried has escaped from the grave.
Yes.
It's all burned except for the one demon hand, which managed to bury itself under some dirt while the body was burning.
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
So this burned person is now wandering around, which I thought the makeup on that part was pretty horrifying. Like the skull-like teeth were exposed and the flesh was all kind of charred looking. But it starts just... The most efficient way to take your hand off possible is just starts ramming it in a car door.
Yes.
Until the hand hilariously pops off lands in the driver's seat and starts honking the horn.
Yes.
Like these annoying people that live in my neighborhood who will just honk their horns at all hours for no reason.
I've decided, having lived in a New York, Brooklyn neighborhood where much the same thing happens, that anyone, and also now having been a driver and been on the freeway and had people cut me up and been stopped at traffic lights with people who won't move ahead of me, and I've had all the things, right? Never once needed or felt like or thought about using my horn. It never came like it just, I'm not trying to say I'm better than other people, but Kirk, I'm better than other people. There are people who pull up to the traffic light and within 30, like the traffic light changes, they're already, like the traffic light has just changed. He's got to put, he's got to put his foot down on the accelerator. He can't like slam his foot down the accelerator and shoot across the lights. It's a slow, gradual process, especially if you've been dormant at the light for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Sometimes the light goes green and people immediately lean on their horn. I want to kill every single one of them with a possessed hand.
And they're like the fifth car back, too, for some reason, waiting for the other cars to move.
I'm going to assume that did they have a driving teacher that was just like, and by pressing the horn, all other traffic disappears?
I think a lot of people are just assholes. I don't know what and then also
the
on my
recurring
block,
butt theme of this podcast.
Yes, you'll also get the drivers who just park next to someone's building and honk on the horn and then yell out their window the name of the person they want, rather than texting them or calling. Yeah. The horn and yelling is much more efficient, apparently.
No, but that's how they live their life, Kirk.
Yeah,
and they just assume the rest of us should just put up with it. And
exactly,
that's fine
because we do, because we're wimps. Just end the podcast there with a minute of silence.
Kirk, you're right. I'm going to walk out into my backyard, cry a solitary tear, and join my one German listener, my one Mexican listener down at Bratwurst. It's not a penis. The nearby restaurant. Anyway, so the burnt up corpse.
So that the charred corpse is then discovered by the police officer.
Yes.
And he then gets possessed by the hand.
Yes.
He carries the corpse to a hill, just rolls it down the hill, and I started cracking up as this guy in a charred costume had to roll down this hill till he was off camera, and then the cop wanders off. And I'm like, I want to see the movie of where the body went after that. This charred corpse that's just rolling and building up speed and momentum. It's going to like hit some bike ramp that some kid set up at the bottom of the hill, go flying. Like,
you mean you want it to be sort of a Weekend at Bernie's, but with a skinless corpse?
Yeah.
And they're constantly trying to explain why the corpse doesn't have skin. Like that's...
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, the idea would be that this corpse just keeps moving. It keeps on running into things that like propel it further forward.
Right. Yes.
Or like it lands in someone's pool and then their dog pulls them out and like near the garbage, and then the garbage men pick it up and throw it in the back. But then it rolls out and rolls down another hill onto some old man's wheelchair and like rolls into an old folks home, and they try to take care of it, but it's, it just goes on and on from there. This dead body just has adventures that we all wish we could have.
Someone accidentally picks it up and puts it down a garbage chute or a laundry chute or whatever, and then it comes out and it's wearing like someone's underwear on its head and like a dress or something, and then someone puts it in the back of a van and takes it to a prison. And I get it. Yeah. Somehow it wins a gold at the Olympics by pole vaulting over the high bar or something, and people are like, and the award goes to the corpse in a dress.
And it somehow becomes the president of America by the end.
By the end, yeah.
And ends up fixing all our problems.
Yes.
Ironically. And
that's a beautiful movie that's going to be made any day now by Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks. like a burnt up Forrest Gump parable about America, where through no fault of its own, a burnt up corpse
is present at all the most significant moments of American history. And no one notices for some reason.
On January 6th, someone's got it on the end of a pitchfork outside the buildings. Yeah. Someone runs it for office. It just keeps perpetuating. In fact, it becomes first. It's like Trump wins in 2024 with it as its vice president. His vice president's burnt up corpse face. But then Trump dies of eating too many Big Macs halfway through his second term as president, and then burnt up corpse face becomes automatically the president and then wages war with Russia or something. The end of the movie is 2 atomic bombs are fired, one by America, one by Russia. and corpse face just like looks at the camera and then it
and then it just, there's a record scratch and it's like, ow, I feel good. And then the credits roll.
The credits roll, and that's it. That's how we end, because burnt up corpse face as president wages war with Russia, and it doesn't end well.
Except for the audience. We all get a big kick out of it.
Where were we? So the policeman, he gets possessed, and then what? He just goes to the plastic surgery, or does she find him? What happens? He's in the churchyard, so they run out, right? Stuart Whitman and Samantha Eggar run out.
They somehow it's like the next day, and she goes to her car, which is outside the church. She's going to get in her car, and
she stayed over for some priest love.
Yeah, seeing how stiff that collar really is.
Yeah.
But then the cop just like arrests her for no reason. He claims she hasn't expired. Oh, he claims her vehicle is stolen,
right?
But she says it's a rental. But he just basically kidnaps her.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes.
And you think he's going to kill her, but no, he takes her to the plastic surgeon and demands that they chop off his hand or he'll kill them.
Yes.
So then they proceed to use some sort of cauterizing like knife that they can't give, like you said, they can't give him any painkillers.
Can't give you any painkillers or anesthetic or local injection or anything like that. But it is a knife that, as I cut through your wrist, will also burn it as well.
Yeah, so that you don't bleed.
Yeah.
But next scene, the cop is holding a tray with his severed hand on it, and the tray is covered in blood.
Yeah.
And I guess, I don't know if his bloody stump is bleeding or if it's just a cauterized stump.
Well, the hand can still
dead.
bleed, but his stump, I guess, is cauterized. But
wouldn't it cauterize both sides? Is it like a toaster where you set it to the bagel setting?
Yeah, probably.
Only the one side is.
Yes, that's right, Kirk. It's like a toaster on the bagel setting. Okay. That's what it is.
So this special electric knife has a bagel setting.
Has a bagel
for that. Okay. Yes. All right. So then the cop is still up. Here's where I'm confused too, because now the hand is disconnected from the cop.
Yeah.
And is he fighting back? He does something in that scene. It's pandemonium because the big-breasted nurse just shouts, "Oh no!" and starts to run.
Yeah.
And the hand, in a hilarious shot, just jumps to a gun on its own.
I'm surprised she doesn't tear off her costume and run down the road with the hand pursuing her.
Or like it's slowly like grabbing at her dress or something.
Yeah.
Like in the.
I mean, come on, Alfredo. What are you playing at? Can you not give us 2 scenes of ridiculous exploitation, please? Anyway, yes.
Yeah. But then, so the hand grabs the gun, shoots her for some reason, and then attacks the doctor's face, I believe. Starts crushing his face.
Yeah.
But possesses him, I think?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then doesn't he have to saw his hand off?
I think so.
Do we get a second hand removal in that scene? I think so.
Oh, no, he does it at the train yard, on the train track. So this is where the car chase commences.
After the car chase, right.
Yeah, so they go through like a bullet-style, like 70s car chase.
Which I thought was excellent. I mean, this was another thing where I'm like, you've given me a few possessions, you've given me a guy crawling out of the earth, you've given me, car door slamming, you've given me possessed policeman, you've given me big-breasted, slutty nurse, and now you're going to give me a car chase. That's not bad for a low-budget movie called Demonoid. Yeah.
Which is only an hour and, I think, 20 minutes or something like that.
Something like that. And he packs that hour and 20 minutes with a punch.
Yeah. Unlike today's movies of like 3.5 hours where half the movie is just people sitting around looking sad in blue light.
Like, I've made a horror movie and it's 2.5 hours long. I'm like, there's no way on earth you can sustain horror, suspense, drama for 2.5 hours. You can't. You can have a little bit of horror and then a whole lot of nothing and then some horror at the end. But that does not a horror movie make. People who made Midsommar.
I think Midsommar is one of the rare ones that works, but I thought that was more of a comedy than a horror movie in some ways, to be honest. Maybe that's why it worked, because they were able to balance.
Can't make a comedy that's 3 hours either, because after about 45 minutes you're done laughing. A lot like this podcast.
Now we're both just crying.
Yes.
The listener can't see it, but we just have tears streaming down our faces.
Single solitary tear, and then off to the bratwurst shop. So,
Yeah. I'm also drooling profusely for some reason.
Yes, profuse drool. So car chase, cop death, right?
Right. Then the hand severed by the train, running it over on the train tracks.
Yeah.
Which was weird because they put in this non-diegetic sound that sounded like a song with a woman screaming over it as the hand was severed.
Yeah.
And that
maybe the only scream he could find when he was in the edit suite was from another movie. And he was like, how do I get rid of the score of this other movie? Don't worry about it. Just use that.
We'll fix it in post. And he's
it's
like
the
post?
Wilhelm scream, but instead of just having the clean Wilhelm screen, he got it off another movie where there's like brass band playing in the background or whatever.
All right. That's the most plausible explanation, I think.
Yeah.
So then the hand hitches a ride on the railroad. Right, and this is where the priest is like, "Hey, maybe something's going on here." He goes.
Maybe something's going on here. There's a burned corpse that slammed its own. That crawled out of the grave and slammed its own hand off in a police car door. Maybe something's going on here. Just maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because he's suspicious of this, he goes to his stained glass window making factory or whatever.
That's another huge expense. I mean, I get it. They wanted him to be able to have like something that could burn the hand or whatever, but still, yeah.
But he's a priest. He was a boxer in another scene. He's got all these like hobbies. How does he have time to do all this stuff?
Well, because he never runs a service, Kirk, in the whole movie. Sundays come and go, and his parishioners are just sat there being like, "Is he not showing up again?" Why, he's dealing with a possessed severed hand. Oh, well then, if he's dealing with a possessed severed hand, I suppose we can cut him a break. Second week comes by. Still, he hasn't dealt with the possessed hand yet. He's still... Well, actually, this week, he's welding together some stained glass windows. Well, he does do a very good job with stained glass, so it's all acceptable, I suppose. They just mill around, they eat a bit of the Eucharist and fuck off. Anyway, sorry.
He's just like Deus Priest Machina. Like, he's just good at everything. He can do whatever the plot needs him to do.
Yeah.
So, right. Well,
if he needed to, like, shoot the hand into space, he'd suddenly be a trained astronaut. Like, it would all just be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, in the sequel, when inevitably the demon hand goes to space, he'll be flying the shuttle.
In the fourth one, demon. Well, wait, right. But if the sequel's about a demon butt, does do we continue with demon butt, or is it like the third one is like a demon penis and the fourth one is like a demon shoulder or something? I don't know. Like, does it
a demon shoulder, demon elbow,
demon ear, or something?
Yeah.
I am a
one
demon
of them's got to
ear.
be. Once they've run the franchise dry, then they've got to go to like Son of Demon Hand and bring it back to the hand again, and that's what the one where they'll go to
five
space.
Fingers.
Yeah,
Son of Demon Hand is like 5 individual fingers. There's no hand; it's just little fingers wandering around.
Wiggling around.
And they go to space.
Yeah.
Son of Demon Hand in space.
And the thing is, they fly to the sun, which is why the title is very clever.
Oh yeah, I like that. Two meanings, and Stuart Whitman is an astronaut who goes to the sun and performs an exorcism.
Yeah, because the sun gets possessed by the fingers, obviously.
But then by performing the exorcism, the sun dries up, and then the earth is without the sun, and everything on earth as we know it dies.
Yeah. Huh. And then we're all just in hell, and then there's demons everywhere.
Yeah, and then it's Demonoid, Son of Demon Hand, son of the Sun Demon Hand, in Hell, Part 8, Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah,
that's the Freddy's hand versus Jason's hand. That's what it is.
Ah, what is it? Freddy's gloved hand or the other hand?
It's Freddy's gloved hand. Otherwise, it would be wildly mismatched.
Jason's hand just smashing it.
Yeah. Well, Jason's hand is carrying a machete. So.
Oh, of course, yes. All right. So you've got to have blades against blades.
Yeah.
Huh.
Blades against blades. And basically then it becomes part of the Puppet Master franchise, and people can't figure out how, but it does. Like, Freddy's hand puts on a puppet, and then Charles Band shows up, and he's like, oh, yeah, Puppet Master 11. You're like, Charles, I don't understand how you're still making money. And he's like, well, it's simple. We took bigger things and made them much smaller and then gave Gary Busey a job voicing them. I don't know how that works, Charles, but good luck to you, sir. Charles Band, the only man. I mean, you understand how Troma's still going, kind of, and you understand how Roger Corman is still doing stuff. You just don't understand how Charles Band is still... What about Ginger Dead Man 8? You're like, what? Did we not say all we needed to say with Ginger Dead Man 1? Anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. Some people are just completists. Once there's a sequel, they got to see the next one.
Yeah. Evil Bong 5. Tommy Chong returns. Oh, wonderful. Excellent. I see what you did there, Charles. Bongs, Tommy Chong. Oh, pot. So funny.
Well, didn't he, back when he was doing Full Moon, he wanted to do back then what like Marvel is doing now with the cinematic universe. He wanted all these sort of horror characters under his umbrella to eventually interact.
Yeah, like Dollman versus... Is it Dollman versus Demon Toys or something like that?
Yeah, Demonic Toys.
Demonic Toys.
I think Corey Feldman is in that. Yeah, that one's terrible. Basically, any of the sequels to those movies were all terrible.
Yeah. And they all do... I mean, they all intertwine a little bit. I would have liked to have seen Dollman versus Trance's Jack Death so that Tim Thomerson could have played dual roles.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
That would have been fantastic.
Him talking to his smaller self.
Yeah. And Helen Hunt shows up and goes, I don't know what I'm doing here because they're not paying me, but I'll show up because of nostalgia reasons. And you're like, wow, Oscar winner Helen Hunt. Is she an Oscar winner? I don't know if she's won an Oscar. Anyway.
Probably at least nominated. I don't know.
Probably.
Another part in the hospital scene is the possessed doctor. For some reason, instead of just injecting Jenny with the knockout drugs, whatever they are, he pokes her repeatedly in different parts of the body till she falls down, and then he gives her one final poke and injects her. And I don't understand why.
Who was that again? Sorry?
The doctor who had performed the hand removal surgery, who then becomes possessed. He chases Samantha Eggar out of the room and just starts poking her with this big comical-looking needle, like a big fake toy needle.
Yeah, that was weird.
But anyway... That was an earlier scene. We've moved on. I just wanted to
That is weird. What was all that about?
I don't know.
Yeah. Then so car chase, train, hand, and eventually we get like the priest gets possessed and then he performs like stigmata on his own hand or something, nails a thing through his... Is it through his hand or through his wrist? He traps the hand through the glass, right? And then nails something through it so it can't pull itself back out of the glass.
Right. Even though it's a super strong demon hand.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And that's almost the end of the movie, though, because he's...
Yeah.
Oh, there was one part just before that I wanted to touch on because it was, I think, unintentionally meta, but... There's a moment where the priest is just driving down the road and some cop comes up to him and is like, there's a car crash. Could you go pray for the driver? And he goes up to it. The driver's already dead, but he sees that the hand is missing. So that's where you find out the hand is still on the loose. But then you hear one of the cops in the background go, he's dead. And it cuts to Samantha Eggar's hotel room. And she's watching TV. And you hear from the TV screen someone else say, he's dead for real. So it's this weird multi-layered like meta commentary. So within the fake world of the movie, someone is dead.
Yeah.
And then you go to within the even faker world of her TV screen in the movie.
Yeah.
And someone is dead for real.
Yeah.
So which world is real? Is it ours or is it the fake TV world? I don't even know anymore.
I think we're living in a fake TV world. I just don't know who's watching anymore. Ooh, deep.
It's about as deep as a mine, which is like a woman.
Yes, which is like a vagina or a butthole. Take your pick. We have multiple orifices for you or a mouth. I suppose it could be like a mouth.
Or the hole at the end of a penis. Let's not forget about that. That's also an orifice, technically.
It is, technically, an orifice. I just don't want to put anything down it. Although some people do.
Yeah. You can find those videos online if you look for them.
No, never look for them. The After Movie Diner does not condone any of the things that your children might Google for shoving stuff down the tips of your penis. We do not condone it. We do not agree with it. Stop putting things down the end of your penis. Nobody cares.
Unless
Nobody
you
but
like
you
it,
cares.
and then go ahead.
Right, but do it in the privacy of your own home. Don't film it. Don't send people photographs of it. Just stop
Unless you're going to upload it to the internet for the world to see, then go right ahead.
No, don't do that in any way at all. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's not that I'm against you doing it. I'm against you feeling the need to tell everyone about it.
Right. But how can you truly enjoy that experience if you don't brag to everyone after doing it?
The people who nail things into their penis and tell people about it are to me the same kind of people who would remove their Spotify accounts and tell people about it. Nobody cares. Do it if you want to do it. It's absolutely fine. We all agree with your right to do it. You don't need to tell everyone about it, and you certainly should not have any moral superiority over jamming something in the end of your penis or deleting your Spotify account. That's how I feel about that, Kurt.
What if you were somehow able to jam your Spotify account into your penis?
What, through like a thumb drive or something?
Yeah, a penis drive.
A penis drive. Sure. But only if that thumb drive contained the entire run of the Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh, never mind. No one wants that inside of them.
Some people do, apparently.
Oh, God.
And that's fine. Just don't tell people about it. Just stop.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Yeah. When I say we're all living in a bad TV show, it's because we all think we have our own TV show. Stop telling people about it. Nobody cares. We don't care what you have for lunch. We don't care whether or not you have a Spotify account, and we certainly don't care what you've stuck into the end of your penis. None of those things are things that anyone else on the planet genuinely cares about. We're just going to pretend that we do, and then news organizations around the world are going to report on it as if it's news, or as if it's not news. It's not a thing. Doesn't matter. It hasn't changed anything. So stop doing it or start doing it. That's up to you. Just don't tell me about it because I don't care.
Stop giving all this attention to these penis stabbers in the media.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it.
Can you imagine if the news got so redundant that it started like reporting on this podcast? If you turned on the news and it was like Kirk and John had a 20-minute conversation where they were comparing the redundancy of leaving Spotify to ramming things down the head of their penis, and then made some thinly veiled commentary on the media. And then it would be like meta. It would be so meta. It would have been like culture would have really at that point entirely eaten itself.
Yeah, well, because then other podcasts would be talking about what we said on this podcast.
Yeah, we do a podcast that specifically comments on news stories about another podcast.
Those exist.
They do. They do.
And it keeps all the hype going, I guess.
It does. So constant perpetual motion of nonsense and gibberish and arse clownery. Anyway, I don't even know how we keep sliding down these orifice rabbit holes. Rabbit holes that could also be compared to orifices if you wanted to.
It's true. Just rabbits going in and out of them.
Rabbit orifices. Which, by all accounts, are very busy because they have a lot more children than almost any other animal.
Oh, yeah. Just let the listeners think about that.
Does this tie the whole orifice-themed subject matter of this podcast neatly into a bow, or are we still going? Is there one more drop we can drain from this?
We'll put a pin in it for now. Tip. And by it, I mean the whole pin of the penis. Very carefully, put a pin in it.
Ouch.
Anyway.
I just like mentally winced.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes.
We're probably everyone stopped listening by this point.
Yeah, everyone stopped listening to it, and they're like, "Are they still trying to complete the plot of this film?" John, we're not watching this movie. You may want to champion this film as some lost B movie. No, we're not watching it, John. You've not done a good enough job of promoting this film at all. We do, however, want to see the sequel that's all about butts.
Of course.
At which point my German listeners run back in, yeah, I want to see the butt film. Please make the butt film. But I'm definitely never watching Demonoid. So Kirk, wrap this up. What do you think about the film? What are your pro points, your criticisms? Would you ever watch this again? And all of that good stuff.
Let's see. I think this movie, I respect it because it took a lot of chances and tried to pack a lot of interesting, maybe not ideas, but actions into the movie.
Yeah, there's no ideas.
No.
It's not saying anything. It's not even saying anything like, I guess it's the idle hands of the devil's playground or whatever, but I mean, it's not really even that, because it's not like the only guy who goes off and sort of sins once he becomes possessed is the husband at the beginning, goes to Vegas and whatever. But it's not like if the movie was he got possessed and then like sinned repeatedly and he was gambling and fornicating and drinking and fighting and whatever and then became president, that would be one thing. But that isn't what it is. He gambles a bit, gets in a bit of trouble, and then dies in a car accident.
From there, it's just a game of hot potato with a hand. It's just hot hand.
Yeah.
Just going from person to person. Because for some reason it wants to attach to her, but it never gets the chance. Because the priest at the end...
Yeah. We didn't talk about the final scene in the movie, but yes.
Yeah. So this was confusing. I don't know if we were supposed to think that the priest just managed to wrestle back his own self, his own consciousness or whatever that the demon had controlled.
He has the power of God, Kirk. Why do you deny it?
But also, I don't know. It seemed like she was also being hypnotized by the hand somehow. So she had this knife in her hand. She walks up to it, gives it to him. He picks up, and then she puts her face in the hand for some reason.
Well, she wants to get possessed by it, I guess.
Oh, see, she understood how this works better than I did as a viewer, I think. But then the priest, it looked like he was about
needed was a 5-minute Samantha Egger training movie in the middle. Samantha Egger goes to YouTube, watches a 5-minute "How does this hand work?" YouTube video, and then she's like, "Oh, okay, we're good now. We're good to go for the rest of the movie."
If this was made in anytime after the 90s, there would have been that. She would have been typing into the internet, clickety clickety clackety, how demon hands work, and you would have had the whole story.
How do demon hands work? Google, do you mean Damon's hands? And which Damon are you talking about? Damon Albarn? He doesn't like Taylor Swift. Oh, no, there's a whole other thing. Carry on. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I guess so. That's my main objection to the movie is that I didn't understand what the inner logic was to any of this.
Right.
But there were enough entertaining, weird, and oftentimes hilarious scenes that I enjoyed watching it. So I would recommend watching it at least once. I don't know if I'll ever rewatch it.
Okay. But
I will remember.
Well, they threw it in the ocean at the end of the movie, right? And then it comes back onto dry land and finally attacks Samantha Egger in her apartment.
Yeah. Which was hilarious because the way they clued you into the fact that it came back was there were just puddles of water, huge puddles of water all over her apartment.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, how wet was this hand?
And did she live in the middle of the ocean? Is that what it is? It crawled. Was that really a houseboat? They just never established that.
Maybe. And the hand hilariously also managed to mail her a package.
Yes. Which
contained some still wet seaweed from the ocean. So I don't know what kind of express delivery.
It's a prankster hand. It's a this hand has a grand scheme of things. It's like Jason nailing up all his bodies to have them be found at the end of the movie.
Oh, right.
Or Michael Myers, positioning all the bodies so that they fall out of closets and stuff. That's the scene I want to see in Halloween that we don't see, is Michael Myers going, "Oh, wait till she gets a load of this," carrying the dead body up to the closet and rigging it, checking it a couple of times to make sure the body swings down correctly, and then setting it back up again, and then she's coming home and he's like, "Oh shit, I better hide in the cupboard," and then
Yeah. There's a scene in Halloween that makes me laugh every time where it's where who's the actress in that? Why can't I remember her name?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes, Jamie Lee Curtis and her friend are walking down the sidewalk, and there's this row of bushes, right?
Yeah.
And you see him peek around. You see
he just stands in the sidewalk and then moves away again. Yeah.
Yeah, but then she walks up to find him, and he's gone. I want to see the shot of him sprinting down to get away from her, all the way down and around the house, because it's good 50 or 60 feet away. He can just disappear that fast.
Yeah. I mean, it would be hilarious if you made a movie that was all the bits in between, like all the normal scary bits. You know what I mean? Which they tried to do, like with the Friday the 13th remake. They tried to explain why he could be in several places at once quickly by saying, well, there are tunnels under the ground. And it completely spoiled, because then you've got this idea that Jason's like, well, I got to go down in the tunnel and run along. Like, it became stupid because any explanation is stupid. Like, any...
Yeah, because it needs to be mysterious.
Yes. Why is it that Michael Myers only walks slow enough that she can get into the house even though she doesn't have keys and the kids have to come out of the top bedroom, come down, open the door, etc. before he even gets to her house, even though it's only crossing the road. But when she goes up to look behind the bush to see if Michael Myers is there, he's been ran, as you say, like he's been able to run through several gardens without being seen. Only to come back and then hide out in the laundry menacingly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the crossing the road makes sense because he's wearing that mask with limited vision and it's nighttime, so he had to look.
Yeah.
Times, fully rotating.
It was the giant wild looks he had to give in order to be able to see out of the mask holes to see whether any cars were coming.
To his eyes, so he could really see all his full periphery. So that took him a little bit.
Yeah. But you're right. Yeah, it's all ludicrous. Much in the same way that a hand pranking her with a parcel full of seaweed, only to then what is it? It throws her through a glass table, doesn't it? Doesn't it smash her through a glass table at the very end?
Oh yeah, the last shot. Okay, so they also did some weird like Eisensteinian juxtaposition editing where they cut back. She's like whirling around screaming.
I love that you've just used the phrase Eisensteinian juxtaposition editing to talk about the final scenes of Demonoid, Messenger of Death. That's fantastic. Carry on. Yes.
Well, you and I both went to film school, so we're highly intelligent film watchers, which is why we watch total crap.
I love this movie. It's not total crap at all. But yeah.
No, it's not crap. It's just so weird. But yeah, they cut to this shot of a mummy from like earlier in the scene. It's like a freeze frame of her, and then they cut to this mummy's face. Yeah. Back to her, back to the mummy. And I'm like, all right, you just took me out of the moment. This is like the final shot of the movie. She goes spinning around some more, and then a very rubbery-looking dummy with blood all over its face crashes through a glass table towards the camera. Yeah. And that's it. That's the end of the movie.
But it's a bold, like, for my way of thinking, it's like, you know, everyone expects sort of that final scene, right? And you would think maybe the hand jumps out of a closet, or the hand, you know, jumps out, maybe the hand comes out of a grave, or maybe the hand... You know, but the idea that also chop the hand up before you throw it away in the ocean. Like they just toss it, they just go out in a boat. They're just like, well, I guess we're far enough away from.
I thought they burned it up, right? They burned it to ashes, but then it reforms.
I guess ashes. So, but it's. I mean, either way, like do more than just. I don't know, do something.
Yeah.
Maybe they burn it. Do they burn it? Do they burn it?
He burns it with a blowtorch. Because it's right near his like his window kiln or whatever.
Okay, but then they just dump the ashes in the ocean.
Yeah,
and
he gives a little eulogy for his hand as he's doing. He's like, ashes to ashes. My hand always wished to be dumped into the ocean. I know because it was my hand and it told me. It was my best friend.
He doesn't do any of that, but yes, that would be amazing if he did. This is what my hand always wanted.
We had a loving relationship. A physical relationship for many, many years.
I mean, why didn't it just go around trying to wank people off? Like, surely that's what a demon hand would do. Just like, oh, wanking, you know, but it doesn't.
And then ripping the dicks off at the end. Because it wants to get you to sin against the Lord and then rip off your penis.
Yeah, this demon hand at no point makes anyone wank, which I just think is a missed opportunity. But again...
it would have been hilarious if it just started... masturbating in public every chance it got. And the owner of the hand was just like, whoa, no. Like at work, or he's on a Zoom call. And it's my demon hand. Sorry.
Sure, Alan, your demon hand. We understand. And that guy became president. So, that would be the movie, like he's wanking off on a Zoom call instead of being fired. The guy's like, we liked your bold decision to masturbate in front of your co-workers. We're going to make you president of the company. Anyway.
But I thought it odd that they used a shot of a rubber dummy instead of at least cutting to her face, like dead on the floor or something, because ending the movie with a very obvious fake version of your actress is an odd choice.
Well, you've got to assume that if you're slamming something through a plate glass, table, that it's not going to be the real Samantha Egger, I guess.
Right.
I know what you're saying, but you're saying if you can't do it right, don't do it at all.
I guess, or just cut to a shot of her on the floor afterwards with blood pooling out, and then cut there so she's dead.
Right.
But at least you've ended with your actual actress instead of a goofy looking rubber prop. You know what I mean?
Well, you could have had the shot from under the table, Samantha Egger, the actress, almost sped up, ramming her face to the table. Then you stop, cut to behind her head, and her head goes through the table.
And that's when it's the dummy, and
that's
you can't
when
tell.
It's the dummy, and then it cuts to her head on the floor, I guess. But that doesn't have quite the visual pop
that's
of
true.
What appears to be a single shot scene. I don't know how bad. I've never seen Sugar Glass. The glass they jump through and smash and stuff. But could you go through Sugar Glass or shove your face through Sugar Glass with your eyes open?
It would probably hurt.
Right.
I think.
Because in the movie, she's like in a scream pose, and her face goes through the table. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of other ways you could do it, but I really don't think there's. I mean, without CGI,
Yeah, they did the best they could with their budget, I'm sure.
Yeah, I appreciated it. I understood what they were going for. I mean, for example, yesterday I had a Sidney Poitier day. I had a Saturday of Sydney, and I watched the Defiant Ones. And at the beginning of the Defiant Ones, the truck that they're all in, the prisoners are all in, that overturns that Sidney Poitier and Tony Curtis run out of and start the whole Defiant Ones movie, is clearly, very, very clearly, a toy car going down a little mud hill into a miniature fence. It's very clearly a miniature. There's, it's black and white, they got rain on it and whatever, but it's very clearly a miniature. Do I attack what is a classic two-hander of cinema between eminent actors Tony Curtis and Sidney Poitier because of a slightly dodgy, by today's standards, stunt, or do I applaud them for effort? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I would definitely prefer practical effects, even if they're goofy looking, over CGI. Which, if this was made today, there would have been computer generated glass spinning in slow motion as she came through it, and fake blood streaming out of But I'm just saying, do that crazy shot, and then at least end on a shot of your actress, her face as a close up or something, on the floor. That's my only.
Or her butt to indicate the sequel. The sequel. What if she's dead, and then it just zooms in on her butt, and her butt goes, her butt chuckles. And that's how the movie ends, because the butt is still possessed. Do you know what I mean? And that's how the sequel comes to be. The sequel starts with Samantha Egger's possessed butt running amok.
She's just walking backwards everywhere for some reason. Nobody knows why.
Yeah, I like that. It just zooms in and her arsehole just chuckles. And then there's a little musical sting and it fades to black. And by a little musical sting, I mean the musician Sting, but played by a dwarf. This movie would have the most bizarre ending of any movie ever made, I think. I know. But at the same time, you'd be like, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And sets it right up for the sequel. And in the sequel, everyone who comes in contact with this backward walking woman is like, you've changed since you got your face rammed through that glass table by that hand and your butt started laughing.
You've changed since you went to that plastic surgeon that just gives everyone enormous boobs whether they asked for it or not. No, I think that could be a perfectly satisfactory way to end a film and set it up for a sequel, and I think that everyone would enjoy that.
And then if you didn't make the sequel, this would be the movie where it just ends with a laughing butt, and it would be seal its spot in cinematic history.
Well, because years ago, people forget, but the reason why I became a big Evil Dead fan was that one day I was sat around in the pub with a bunch of people, a couple of people who were older than me, who worked at our college AV department, sixth form college, between 16 and 18. And we sat around having lunch in the pub. And one of them, we were all talking horror movies because we were all at that point in our late teens where you start to really kind of discover, movies and who you are and da-da-da-da-da. And one of the guys much older guys from the AV department kind of went, "Oh man, you would love Evil Dead." And I was like, "Evil Dead?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's insane. This woman gets raped by a tree." Like, that was the line he uses, right? And I was like my head immediately went into how's that even possible? Like, there's a tree running through the forest. Like, I was I immediately was like, what do you mean a woman is raped by a tree? Now, obviously, once I saw it, I was disappointed because I'm like, it was in England and it was still cut at that point, and it only kind of... No, I wasn't really disappointed. But when I watched it, I was like, oh my God, this is an amazing movie. But that's what you need.
Get a lot cut out of it? Was it considered a video nasty? Or was
yes, Evil Dead was a video nasty. There was even court proceedings against it. Sam Raimi showed up and it was thrown out of court. It didn't go all the way, but there were court proceedings against it. Sam Raimi flew all the way to England, and then the judge, before they could even start, was like, "I've watched the film. It's clearly a fantasy. This isn't. There's no reason to, bring this up on charges because there's nothing. This was actors in a wood doing a thing. It's clearly a fantasy. Sorry you came all this way, Mr. Raimi. Goodbye."
Wow.
And he threw it out of court. Because there's nothing in Evil Dead. Yes, it's violent and graphic and has a bunch of stuff in it, but it's a fantasy film. It's a camera moving through a wood. It's not purporting to be actual abuse or actual anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not
and no one's going to be imitating it in their lives.
Right.
Well, maybe they'll be trying to summon demons, but you're not going to be able to because demons aren't real. So
right. Right.
And plus you got to have a hand that a demon wants to drive around like a car. So,
but I'm just saying, back in the day, that sentence, "tree tries to rape woman" or whatever, conjured up so many images. I was like, I have to see that movie. It was the tagline, not because I'm obsessed with abuse on women or anything, but just because that sentence alone is silly enough that makes you kind of go, well, what? How is that? How do they even film that without it being
right? It sounds totally surreal.
Ridiculous.
How would you? Yeah. So
if you said, "But John, have you seen the movie that ends with a laughing butthole?" You would be like, "What do you mean it ends with a laughing?" Jim Carrey doing his pants gag from Ace Ventura. No. This is a demon-possessed close-up of an actual laughing butthole, and that's how the movie ends. You would be like, "Well, I have to see that film."
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Now on the internet, everyone's seen everything, and everything can be seen, and it is what it is. There's not that shock value anymore.
It's true.
You
don't have to rent a video based on its crazy VHS artwork.
Right. Because all you get is a square on a streaming platform that you're just scrolling by, going, "There's never anything to watch. There's never anything to watch."
Yeah.
Because there is nothing ever to watch, because there's less movies on all the streaming platforms combined than there was in one video shop.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But all of them are ones that the streaming service you're using knows you want to watch based on everything else you've watched, which it'll just show you something where you'll be like, what? Why would I want to watch this?
They do not know what I want to watch. I love to confuse them as well by occasionally watching a Hallmark movie or something. Occasionally watching the soppiest romantic film available, and they're like, "Wait, Death Wish 3, Demonoid, evil, whatever it is," and then I don't know, people kissing flowers or something, and you're like, "This doesn't make any sense. We don't know how to do an algorithm for that." Occasionally just watch a musical with Care Bears the movie or something. We don't understand. what? We don't, like, the algorithm's going crazy, and I'm just sat there going,
Yeah. And then it just has to just give you some random thing like, we think you'll like Full House.
Yeah, right.
It's like, what? It has nothing to do with anything else I've watched. It's just throwing whatever it can at you.
The algorithm is scrabbling for, like, a movie that's a musical that features talking teddy bears that's also got Wings Hauser in it, and they're just like, we don't know what, that doesn't exist.
Because that's on Hulu or something else.
Yeah.
It's not on the one you're watching.
It's not on the one you're watching, right. And no true platform has managed the cross-platform search engine thing. Like, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, even my Apple TV, like, when I use my mic on my Apple TV remote, and I'll say a random movie. Like, yesterday we were watching Sidney Poitier movies. I wanted to know if They Call Me Mr. Tibbs, the sequel to In the Heat of the Night, was streaming anywhere. So I went, They Call Me Mr. Tibbs. And Apple TV will pull from, like, some of the streaming services I have, but not all of them. So, like, Stars, it doesn't pull from, Paramount Plus or whatever, it doesn't pull from. Like, none of the... It will pull from Netflix, Hulu, Apple TV, and HBO Max or whatever. Like, it picks and chooses, like, what it'll show you. But sometimes I go and I look on Stars, and they're like, the movie's available, but Apple TV won't tell me. So even something like that will search a lot of your downloaded streaming apps. It won't search all of them.
Yeah. And there's way too many separate streaming apps now.
Yeah.
You can find a few things you want to see on each one, but they never have everything that you want.
What I end up doing, which is hilarious, is every time I either do a free trial of a streaming app or purchase a new streaming app, I go through, like, I spend a day, like, going through all their movies and stuff and making a list, going, whenever I want to watch something, I'll just go to this list because I've already whittled it down to the ones that I want to watch. I never go back to the list, ever. All I ever do is open the streaming channel and, like, scroll and just go, there's never anything on this channel, and then leave and put a Blu-ray in. That's all I ever do. And I'm like, why am I paying for all these streaming channels again?
I don't know. I do something similar where I scroll through and I'm like, oh, that sounds good. I want to watch that, but not right now. Yeah. And I'll save it to my whatever saved things. And then I'm like, there's nothing I want to watch right now. They didn't make the perfect movie for the mood I'm in at this very moment. Yeah. So therefore, everything sucks.
I love it when they try and get too granular with the categories as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like because if you look up, like, comedy on Amazon Prime, it then starts to give you action comedy, horror comedy, musical comedy, comedy in which Adam Sandler falls over into a cow pat or whatever. Like, it just keeps, comedy which features flying fish, comedy which features a laughing butthole, whatever. Like, it just keeps going. And you're like, I don't want any of the, can you just show me all comedies? Like, just show me all comedies, because I'll decide what.
Or just all movies, just alphabetized. I don't care. I just want to see what's everything, because otherwise you get all these little miniature menus that all basically have the same movies in them.
Yeah, same 10 movies in them that they're trying to get you to watch.
Yeah, and that's all you can find unless you do a search for something you know is on there.
Right. So what do I end up using? And this is the other reason why Google will never go away, is because all I end up doing is bringing up my phone, Googling Demonoid streaming, and then Google lists all the places it might be streaming. And then if you click videos, it lists all the places where the video might be. And that's the only way I can ever ultimately tell if I Google something and I don't see it streaming anywhere, then I know I have to either go buy the Blu-ray or rent it on Amazon or Apple or iTunes or whatever, or email my friend and go on, shoot me a sneaky digital copy of it. But those are the three options. Depending on what I want to watch, because I've definitely started the year doing what I've been doing, like calling it like the IMDb movie watch. In other words, start with an actor or a director and just like watch 10 of their movies back to back, just to kind of get a handle on it. So yesterday I did 4 Sidney Poitier movies. Last week I did about 9 Robert Ginty movies. Wow. People are like, wait, you watched less Sidney Poitier movies, a classically trained, incredibly erudite and fantastic, charismatic cinematic performer. You watched 4 of his movies, but Robert Ginty, a guy who looks weirdly like a hamster with a mullet, who, mumbling through cereal, you watch 9 of his movies. I'm like, yeah, I did. I'm sorry.
Maybe if Sidney Poitier had made some movies where he's using a flamethrower to kill people.
Yep.
Yep.
You
get a little more real estate in your brain.
Definitely. Sometimes just the name Robert Ginty is enough. It's so, for me, that's such a funny name. I don't know why. Like Robert Ginty, like it just makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Ginty.
Well, it sounds like an adjective for something, for like like squinty or like shrimpy or I don't know. I just pictured this little angry little guy.
Oh, you're feeling a bit ginty today. Yeah, I am feeling a bit ginty today.
Yeah.
I didn't have my bowel movement this morning and I'm just feeling a bit ginty. But that's just enough to make me go, how did this guy sustain a career for 3 decades? But he did. He sustained a career for 3 decades plus. I mean, like I would kill to have his career. Do you know what I mean? Like Robert Ginty's career. He traveled to far-flung corners of the globe. He made movies with all sorts of weird character actors. He often got to be the star of his own movie. He got to do bar fights and boat chases and love scenes. And like, he just got to be the Ginty. And he's got no discernible talent. Like he's got no, you can't pinpoint he's not particularly handsome. He's not particularly rugged. He's not muscular, whatever. He's got a weird voice. He doesn't deliver dialogue particularly well. He occasionally, for no apparent reason, wears a pink flouncy scarf and a cut-off denim jacket just in the middle of a movie, which does not suggest that his character would wear that, but just in one scene he wears it and gets away with it. He just had he just carved out a niche for himself, and it's like Samantha Eggar, perfectly fine performer. Nothing particularly special to her, but fine. Samantha Eggar, she's fine. And she gets to do The Brood and Demonoid and Curtains and whatever. I mean, it's just, that's what I want. Why don't I have that, Kirk?
I don't know. But because you have this. They all wish they had your podcast, I'm sure. They're like, I want to talk about these movies I'm in. I want to be able to watch these movies I made without having to make them. Yeah. Right? It's always grass is always greener.
I want to be able to watch and talk about these movies I'm in without having to have been in them.
Yeah.
Whereas I want to be in these movies, I want to stop talking about them.
Yeah. Well, because they know how the sausage is made, right? Because
the bratwurst. It's not a penis.
Oh, yeah, not a penis. Oh. But to them, like they watch Halloween and they remember the part where he had to run away really fast or he had to cross the street looking back and forth. They're like, it's ruined for me because I saw that part of it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
But at the same time, I'm guessing Robert Ginty probably doesn't get recognized on the street too much either. So he's got
dead. But so if he got recognized on the street, that would be quite a feat for him.
Well, if he rises from the grave and rolls down a hill,
cuts off his hand in a car door, someone would be like, "Wait, did that skinless corpse with the corpse teeth that rolled past me just now, was that Robert Ginty from The Exterminator?"
But back when he was alive, I mean, he didn't have the paparazzi after him, so he could probably live a normal life.
That's what I mean.
While being in all these crazy movies. That's what
I mean. He gets to be in all these films. He gets to travel to all these different countries. He gets to have this incredible life, but is only recognized by idiots like me. You know what I mean? Like one in every 3,000 people are like, "Oh, are you Ginty for The Exterminator?" And he goes, "Oh, thank you very much for watching," and then ducks into a room or something. But I'm just saying, like, he's like, "Run away from the greatest fan." Meanwhile, Brad Pitt can't even go into Starbucks to buy a coffee because there's like 1 billion people bombarding him with cameras. Yeah. Ginty's over here being like, "I've got a fan," and he's running away.
Right. Well, because he doesn't want that life. He wants the Ginty life.
I want the Ginty life, man. Maybe that's the next 40 years on this planet. Maybe I go out and figure out how to get the Ginty life. Maybe that's what happens. And when that happens, Kirk, you could do a podcast that talks all about my life.
It'll be called The Ginty Life, but it'll be all about Jon Cross.
The truth of the matter is that's all I want, is I want to be interviewed by people. That's really all it is.
So you're basically like, no one's going to interview me. I'll just go and I'll interview them.
I'll interview everybody else, so that on the off chance that one day, you know what I mean? Like for example, bringing it back to Matt Farley and Charlie Roxburgh, a lot of their movies are coming out on Blu-ray now. There's a company up in Canada called Gold Ninja Video that's sort of exclusively releasing their stuff, along with other movies.
Wow, cool. But
exclusively releasing Matt and Charlie's movies. And I'm in a lot of them that they're releasing. And I'm just like, whenever they come out, they're like, oh, there's a special edition, and they've got like a making of and an interview and a this, that, and everything else. I'm like, you didn't interview me, you bastards. I'm in the movie for 30 seconds. Interview me. I want to be interviewed. That's my ego. My ego, I don't let it show very often, but when I let it show, it's just like, interview me. I want. That's it.
Maybe you could get into. Maybe you could get on their like special like reels or like special features, yeah, by just mailing them, or just emailing them footage of you saying, "Interview me." Why didn't you interview me? And they'll put that in the next movie. It'll be, you'll always be a movie behind, but you'll always get onto the next DVD.
Well, I'm in Matt's next movie that's shooting in March.
Cool.
So hopefully while I'm on set, I can be Charlie. Can you interview me and then maybe slip it to the Gold Ninja Video guys so that I'm on a bit? Because not satisfied with being in the movie. Like, being in the movie should be more than enough. You know what I mean? I'm in the movie. That should be enough for me. I want to be in the Blu-ray special features. In fact, I want my scene to be cut out of the movie, but still be in the Blu-ray special features. That's really what I'm looking at.
There should be a picture of you on the back of the Blu-ray box, bigger than the other pictures of the movie, that says "Interview with Jon Cross" as part of the special features.
Yes, that's all. I mean, that should count for something, Kirk. That's all I want. You know, you think I'm joking, but deep down, there's a nugget of truth in the butthole of lies that we've spewed all over this podcast. There is a nugget of truth.
Yeah.
And that's it. So, Kirk, where can people find you? And have you got anything creative out there that you would like to share with the listening several?
No, they can't find me. I want to live the Ginty life. Get away from me.
I've got a fan! Robert Ginty was pursued across Midtown today by one person. Jon Cross ran for 9 blocks. Jon Cross chased Robert Ginty for 9 full city blocks.
But no, I have nothing to plug right now. And I have nothing. I've done nothing with my life for the past 2 years of COVID.
Okay.
No, I've got stuff I'm working on, but just nothing I'm ready to put out in the world yet. But maybe one day.
I had to show you this. Look what I found earlier this week. Look.
Oh my God!
Beartor and Lepidactyl.
Nice.
And Kirk Howle stickers. I got all 3.
Awesome.
I got the full set. So is Beartor, Lepidactyl, and Kirk Howle, is that still out in the world?
Yeah,
or have you pulled it from Spotify?
Yeah. It was probably
in protest,
never on Spotify.
Small indie tech musician Kirk Howle has removed all his music from Spotify. What were you protesting, Kirk? I don't know.
I was protesting the death of.
I was protesting the fact that the Aftermovie Diner keeps putting podcasts out.
Yeah.
He's had so many opportunities to die.
Are your podcasts on Spotify?
They are, yes. I'm part of the problem, Kirk.
You podcasters.
I actually don't control that. I put my podcast up on Spreaker. It distributes it to all platforms, so I don't.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not going to go to Spreaker. Hello, I'm Jon Cross. 10 people listen to me. Could you remove it from Spotify, please? Do you also want it removed from Amazon and Apple, which have their own history of human atrocities and horrible crimes against morals and everything else? No, you can leave it there, just off Spotify. Why? Well, Joe Rogan has a different opinion to me, so just, I don't, I've just decided, right on, mate. Go tweet about it and tell everyone all about it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's pretty much unavoidable. We're all dependent on these gigantic corporate monsters that are all ruining everything.
Here's the thing,
and we have
Kirk.
No choice.
Here's the thing. all platforms are compromised.
Yeah.
However, you still get to decide, the free part of our society still gets to decide what you consume. Right? So if you don't like something, let's say you're consuming something like, I used to watch Bill Maher years ago. I don't watch it anymore because he's become a miserable old fuck. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's wrong about 90% of things. I watched it for a bit. Like, I watched it when I was much younger and angrier. But since then, I'm just like, he's an asshole. You know what I mean? I used to watch a lot of satire shows, and now I'm just like, I've had my fill of satire. We're living in a satire. Like, do something else. My thing is always this. How can we turn something positive? Instead of cancel culture, support culture. Find the culture you want to support and support it. Find indie culture. Find culture. Go on YouTube and find someone doing animation like yourself, or go find music on any of the streaming platforms that's independently produced or doesn't have enough followers, but you really like it. Support that culture. Don't cancel the big behemoth will find a place to live. You know what I mean? Alex Jones still found a platform. Glenn Beck still found a platform. Doesn't matter. Bill O'Reilly's probably still shitting out books. I don't know, but I presume he is. No one's ever, Louis C.K. is still doing stand-up shows and making. You're never going to kill the behemoth. Cancel culture only goes so far, and even fucking Bill Cosby got back out of prison. So don't worry yourself about cancel culture. Find the shit that you really love and support that. Don't cancel culture, support the right culture. That's what I do.
Yeah. Well, cancel culture doesn't even exist by the definition people give it. Like, usually the people who actually get, if you want to say canceled, it's people who have no power. It's the huge, powerful people who are constantly, oppressing and ruining the lives of people who can't fight back.
Right.
So if you say you're going to, no one's actually canceling any of these. Like you said, these huge celebrities, they get whatever they want because they have a name and they keep getting attention.
Right.
Even if you try to cancel them, it just gives them attention.
And if anything, the more you go on about, oh, did you hear what Joe Rogan said? And blah, the more you do that, the more power he has. The more you criticize Fox News, the more people watch Fox News because they're like, wait, Fox News said what mad shit? Oh, I got to watch this because it's mad shit. It becomes a self-fulfilling anti-prophecy or whatever. So you need to stop doing all that and just tweet about things that make you happy, that you love, that you discovered, that means something to you, that's a little indie song over here, or a little indie animation over there, or a little indie film that you found over here. That's what it is. Because these platforms give indie creators endless freedoms to do whatever they want to do and put it out into the world.
Yeah, and it's easier to find than ever, too, right? Like,
and when we do put it out into the world, there are crickets.
Right. Exactly.
But put something out into the world that's like really horrible and shitty, and everyone's like, oh, did you hear what horrible and shitty things people do? Just stop. Stop. You're putting all your energy in the wrong fucking place. Yeah. And that's how I feel about it. Anyway.
No, I think that's a good way to live life. Stop giving them attention promote people who need the attention.
Right. Because have you ever, I don't know about you, but like when I go on trending topics on Twitter, which I fucking hate that they're right there because they kind of lure me to click on them. And I just wish I could turn that right panel off. But whenever I click on them, the tweets are always anti what the hashtag is. Meaning the hashtag is like, cancel Spotify or whatever. But most of the top tweets that have the most hits and are the most popular tweets are people being like, hashtag cancel Spotify is stupid. And you're like, so even the trending topic doesn't relate to, do you know what I mean? Even the hashtag or whatever it is doesn't relate to actually what people are saying. It's just
we're all being manipulated into being outraged about things, basically.
Yeah. So be positive and loving about things like Demonoid.
Yeah. Or it's okay to be outraged about stuff, but be outraged about real, actual problems and not a problem someone's trying to hype up to get themselves more media attention.
Right, but even when you're outraged about real problems, all you can do is what you can do.
Yeah. Right? Do something locally in your community.
Right. So if you're prepared to run for office, great. Run for office. But if you're not prepared to do that, then, recycle where you can recycle. If you can get solar panels, get solar panels. If you can help out at a local homeless shelter, help out at a local homeless shelter. If you're willing to donate to charities, donate to charities. If you can shop at black-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, LGBTQ-owned businesses, do that. But all you can do is what you can do.
Yeah, and that'll do a lot more than angry tweeting
of course.
About it.
Like, because we're all living in our own reality TV show, do what you can do. And you don't need to tell anyone else about it. Just do what you can do. If you can cut down on eating beef a little bit, cut down on eating beef. If you can help out at a local soup kitchen, help out at a local soup kitchen. Like, do what you want to do. And telling people about it or not telling people about it does not affect anything ever anywhere.
Yeah. All good points.
That's how. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong, Kirk. Maybe tweeting about Spotify is going to solve the world's problems. I have no idea. But I'm just saying, based on the outrage merry-go-round that we're all on, it doesn't seem to be. Yeah. It doesn't seem to have an end goal. Like, the end goal is
at the very least, it doesn't seem to be good for people's just mental health. You got to get away from that stuff. Get a break.
Get a break.
Do something that you feel good about.
Listen to a podcast about two people talking about possessed buttholes. That's really what you should do. That's what we're saying.
It was mostly just us talking about sticking things into penises. But you'll feel better.
You will.
After
you'll feel better.
You listen to that.
And then you'll want to interview me. Interview me. That's really what it is. So after that conversation that was referencing the Joe Rogan opinions on vaccinations and things that caused people momentarily in January to want to cancel their Spotify and tell everybody about canceling their Spotify accounts, that I was sort of flippantly and jokingly kind of referencing just to sort of do a bit of stupid ranty humor. But I think about a worthwhile and decent thing, which is, you can do what you can do and just try and be positive and try and support rather than attack. But Kirk sent me a voicemail, which I'd like to play now.
Hi, Jon Cross. This is Kirk Howle. That message, by the way, was hilarious that I just got when I called into your voicemail. Hopefully I don't come across as too scattered-brained right now because I'm trying to amuse my kitten who's digging his claws into my leg to get my attention as I'm talking because he's very hyper and wants to play. But I just wanted to call. Thank you for having me on the podcast, the After Movie Diner podcast, where we talked about Demonoid. Hopefully this message will appear on that same episode. I just wanted to get something off my chest I've been thinking about since since we recorded. There was my response to something I felt was not good enough, it was kind of inept in the moment because I didn't have my brain in a political place. I was more just thinking about crazy Dune movies. But you had said something to the effect of people are canceling their Spotifys because they have because Joe Rogan has a different opinion than them. And I just replied yeah, because I was kind of tired and my brain was not thinking politically. But I don't quite agree with that statement. I think that it's not that he has a different opinion, it's that he's spreading dangerous misinformation to all his listeners. And we're 2 years into the pandemic, and at this point, he should have been able to hire a team to educate him on how COVID works and how RMNA vaccines work and how masks work and all that stuff. But he hasn't, and I think it's mainly because he just has this obstinate view of wanting to be this counterculture, everyman genius or something, which he isn't. But that's just my opinion, I guess. But anyway, just wanted to respond on that, and I think that I get why people want to cancel their Spotifys, just to try to send a message to his corporate overlords that he needs to kind of be reined in and to stop saying stuff that's harmful to people. But was that it? I think that was all my thoughts on that. So thanks again for setting up this phone line. This is great. And have a good day. Love you, John. Take care of yourself. And I'll see you in the future. Bye-bye.
So that was Kirk's extra message he wanted me to put on the show about the whole Joe Rogan thing. I don't disagree with him at all. It's entirely up to anyone what they want to do. I also do not agree with Joe Rogan. I hope that my previous comments on the show do not come across that I in any way agree or endorse or or ever listen to Joe Rogan, because I don't. But I also think we walk especially as a podcaster who shoots his mouth off, as you've heard at the end of this episode, I think you walk a dangerous line when you start saying that podcasts that are primarily for entertainment need to somehow maintain a newsworthy level of integrity and honesty and knowledge and so on, when the news doesn't even do that. So the news is all opinion. So to suddenly say that an opinion show possibly needs to be better informed or whatever, it's a bit of a difficult slope, because if we say that about Joe Rogan, and I agree, Joe Rogan should not be spreading the bullshit he's spreading or shooting his mouth up, but I would also say that anyone trying to get healthcare advice or vaccine knowledge from Joe Rogan is looking in the wrong place any more than anyone trying to get pandemic information from me is looking in the wrong place, or vaccine information from me is looking in the wrong place, even though I have bothered to educate myself as best as any layman can about these things. I still would never say get that information from me. And that's the same thing I say about Joe Rogan. Don't get your information or your news or your healthcare knowledge or anything from Joe Rogan. If people find some kind of solace from canceling Spotify or leaving Twitter or Facebook, any of those things, have at it. I love that. That's fantastic. I'm no friend of any of those platforms. As I said, those platforms are, we're never going to take those down because they serve a purpose. And they don't just serve a purpose for the Joe Rogans of the world. They serve a purpose for the Matt Farleys, the Jon Crosses, and even the Kirk Howleys of the world. So they serve a purpose. And we can either choose to use them positively or negatively. And so that's what I was trying to say. But I don't disagree with Kirk at all. I think he's coming from a very correct place, and I agree with what he's saying. I know where he's coming from. I just think it's a lot to expect an entertainment show, even a bad one like Joe Rogan, to have sort of informed knowledge and newsworthy integrity when the news doesn't have that. Nothing has that anymore. There is nowhere to, unless you go to your doctor or unless you go to, a learned person who you trust, who's read stuff and knows stuff and has proved that. No one should be getting any of their life information from me or from Joe Rogan or from anybody in the entertaining podcast game. Interesting point. I went to Spreaker, which is the platform that I use to upload the podcast and disseminate that podcast across the internet. The other day, I went to upload the last podcast I uploaded, and suddenly there were some terms and conditions to uploading the podcast that said something along the lines of sort of what Kirk was saying in his message about, no misinformation and no slander and no this and no that, right? And the liberal side of me, the right-thinking side of me thinks, great. Make sure that people are being more honest, make sure that people are being more respectful. I agree with all of those things. However, the comedic side of me, the creative side of me, and the podcaster who's been doing this 12 years and knows that in those 12 years, my opinions have changed, my personality has changed, I've learned more, I've grown up, whatever. Am I going to be, I don't want to be held to what I said flippantly as a joke to a friend on a podcast that a few people were listening to 12 years ago, any more than I want to be judged 100% on the flippant, stupid, comedic, creative, and weird conversation that we had on this show about Demonoid. And I also don't want a platform like Spreaker or a platform like Spotify or a platform like Amazon or whatever telling me what I can and can't say, even if the impetus behind it is to be more respectful and be more learned and be more knowledgeable and be more proactive and be more educated, even if those messages are why they're doing it, which is all messages that I agree with, be more respectful, be more educated. I don't want a platform telling me, well, we have decided that the thing you said did not fit with our terms and conditions. America and most Western civilizations at this point, or, and I hate using that phrase, but most, wealthy, I don't know what you want to call it, most democratic, most whatever nations have some version of freedom of speech. But America certainly does. And I don't think any more than we want corporations dictating, what we can watch, what we can wear, who we can vote for, where we can go. We don't want corporations pushing the independent business off the high street or the forcing brick and mortar shops to close down. nor do I want a corporation telling me that what I've said has been deemed disrespectful or not qualified enough, not knowledgeable enough, or whatever. I think that's a very, very slippery slope towards justifying censorship. So, again, I completely understand where Kirk's coming from. I do agree with all his principles and the point that he's making. And sure, go ahead, do whatever you feel will affect change with these platforms or send a message to these platforms. But ultimately, a platform, whoever owns it, whoever runs it, and you can't exist in the 21st century without having compromises or blood on your hands or doing business with the devil. It's impossible. It's impossible. Even I am absolutely loathe Elon Musk, but would happily get Tesla batteries for my solar power panels. Things like that. You just can't. You can't get away from doing business with the devil right now. We've given money and we've given the future over to these people, and you either accept that culpability and try and do something good with it, or you can constantly rage at the dying of the light, and to my feeling, not live a full life. Even if you have the best intentions, you're not living a full life. And again, there are plenty of worthy people on Spotify that you could listen to and that you could support. And so if you want a list of those people or information about any of those people, please email me at hello@aftermoviediner.com or call me at 347-669-0053. Anyway, Kirk, thanks so much for sending the voicemail. I hope adding to this debate, because I think it's, as a creator, especially as a creator who's thinking potentially of maybe moving on from being this kind of creator, I think it's worth having these conversations. And I don't want the After Movie Diner to become a place where you can't have these conversations because Spreaker or Spotify or someone else has determined you can no longer have these conversations in the vernacular with which you want to have these conversations, which sometimes is flippant, sometimes is hyperbolic for the sake of comedy, sometimes it's rude, sometimes it's crude, sometimes it's off the cuff and not thought through. And that's human communication. That just is. If you take that away from communication, then you are pulling the lifeblood out of it, and everyone has to stop for 20 minutes before they say anything and think about every single word they're going to say. And while that sounds wonderful, to go that everyone has to think about absolutely everything before they say it, nothing would ever get done, and nothing would ever progress because we would all be too afraid to say anything. So, very complex situation, and I think I've rambled on way too long about it. But thank you so much, Kirk, again, for sending the voicemail and spurring this message. I hope people can see that I'm trying to come at it from the right place and not the wrong place. And I am in no way by jokingly attacking the people that I feel are tweeting to somehow fulfill their, I don't know whether it's ego or whatever it is that makes them want to look good online. They want to look good. They want to look positive. They want to look, and maybe that's what I'm doing with this whole, maybe I'm as bad, but it's too easy to be like, there, I cancel my Spotify, hit send on the tweet, and away we go, than it is to have a real conversation about it. And that's all I was trying to say. Plus, I get sick of opening social media and seeing these justice warriors every day. And I go, yeah, but what did you actually do? What did you actually do? Because I guarantee that 90% of the people who actually do something in this world for good, you never hear about it. And if you do hear about it, it's in, buried on page 10, or, it's a little local news story that never gets made national or whatever. Or it's your neighbor who you happen to know does some stuff. Those are the people that I'm more interested in. And so, but everyone is entitled to an opinion as well. And I love that about the world, about this podcast, and about doing this in general. So thank you again for listening, everybody. And I'm going to cut back to the recording where I believe we wrap up the show. Anyway, Kirk, thank you again, sir.
Thank you, Jon Cross, for having me on the Jon Cross's After Movie Diner.
This has been a thrill, a pleasure. I have not laughed this hard in a long time, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
I enjoy the riffing. I enjoy the riffing more than I enjoy the movie. I just want the show to be more riff and less movie. So I'm glad that we kept bringing it back to the movie, and people should watch the movie, but I much prefer just the riffing. So thank you for that.
Oh, of course, yeah. And I don't think describing this movie even helps people understand what watching it is like. So They should, if they've listened this far, they should have already turned this podcast off and just gone and watched the movie. But if they've listened this far, go watch the movie.
Yeah, and then go out into your backyard, weep a single tear.
And eat a sausage that might be a penis.
Go to your nearest sausage penis party. And that's what we're talking about. All right, well, thank you ever so much, Kirk.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for doing this, man. This has been a thrill, and we'll do this again very soon.
All right, thank you.
Do you remember earlier when I said I'd been working on some music? Well, here's some of that music. Scars like a badge of honor, telling stories, leaning into the bar. One more inch and you'd have been a goner. Some tales bear repeating, but most of them don't. Throw them away, you don't need them anymore. I promise you, you won't. Throw them away, throw them away. You don't need them anymore, but maybe they'll need you back someday. Yeah. Proudly on your own. Nothing you execute is random, arbiter of all that extra charm. Some heroes won't disappoint you, but most of them will. Throw them away, you don't need them anymore. Someone else can pay that bill. Throw them away, throw them away. You don't need them anymore. They are part of the old way. Throw them away, throw them away. You don't need them anymore, but maybe they'll need you back someday. Yeah. You cling to this eroding fiction every day when you awake. Whispers at the collection, an unraveling mistake. Some clues may point to answers, but most of them come up short. Throw them away, you don't need them anymore, along with all the lies you bought. Throw them away.